It is my pleasure to introduce the speaker for today. Our resource speaker is a certified public accountant and finished her Bachelor of Science in Commerce major in accounting at the University of Santo Tomas with flying colors. She pursued higher learning, finishing Masters in Business Administration and earned units leading to doctorate degree. She is a professional resource speaker on withholding taxes, corporate and individual income tax, bookkeeping laws and regulations, value added tax and other percentage taxes, one time transaction taxes, and other tax administration matters, including management courses like time and stress management, leadership and supervisory, executive training, accounting for non accountants, corporate communications, making entrepreneurship work for you, and decision making. She is an expert user of the Tax Computerization Project, Integrated Tax System or ITS, specifically the Return Compliance System, designed to automatically identify registered taxpayer who failed to file returns on time, commonly called as stop filers. She contributed valuable support to the Enhanced Tax Information System as team head of Taxpayer Registration System for the modification and registration of receipts and invoices, books of accounts, computerized accounting system, and others. She is a major part in the institutionalization of process reengineering on one-time transaction taxes coined as ONET, ensuring the release of certificate of registration of real and personal properties, stock transaction, and others within a limited time for the convenience of the general public. Apparently, because of the pandemic, she took part as the functional project manager to several revenue generating initiatives to innovate e-services such as e-filing and e-payment, EBIR forms, where one can file anywhere and anytime 24/7. EBIR forms was mandatorily used nationwide to identify taxpayers for ease in doing business and filing compliance requirement. E-register, where issuance of TIN for employees are now undertaken by the respective employers. Employees are no longer required to personally get their TIN from BIR, but through their employer. E-ACREG, and e-sales for the registration of machine generating receipts and e-sales reporting, and e-submission, electronic attachments to returns such as AFA lists of employees, payees, etc. Notices was piloted and established during her stint as chief of the Withholding Tax Division, where computerized matching of alpha lists and other records submitted by seller versus buyer or payer versus payee against their filed returns to detect possible discrepancies. The use of tax remittance advice for payment by national government agencies was introduced to ensure proper remittances of NGAs, made possible for the conversion of manual procedures to electronic compliance on withholding taxes such as SAWT, MAP, and QAP. Scanning of 2307, etc., authored numerous tax issuances and initiated for taxpayers that are hardly taxed be included under the expanding withholding tax system, including top corporations and individuals, hospitals, professionals, multi-marketing agents, purchases by government, and creation of taxpayer account management program. Highlights of her career as chief of the Taxpayer Service Programs and Monitoring Division were ISO certification of the BIR registration system to a number of RDOs, redesigned major BIR forms, rigorous monitoring of registration through tax compliance verification drive. She headed the training delivery division where BIR was accredited as government CPE provider, a technical assistant to two commissioners, and PMIS supporting the initiatives, programs, and project of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. She is currently a Director 2 as Head Revenue Executive Assistant of the Human Resource Development Service of the BIR National Office. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming our resource speaker for today, Ms. Marivic Acosta-Galban. A round of applause, please. Miss Marivic?
Di po kaya naka-mute po siya?
Hello, Miss Marivic?
Hindi kaya naka-mute?
Opo, baka
Hello?
naka-mute lang
Hello,
po.
ma'am.
Ayan, ayan po.
Ayan na, ayan.
Medyo po mahina po boses niyo po, hindi po namin narinig from the
Opo.
start po.
Ma'am Marivic.
Good morning.
Yeah,
Good
mahina
morning,
lang
Good
po
ma'am.
morning.
konti. Hindi po masyadong madinig, ma'am.
Okay. Good
Salamat
morning.
po. Good morning.
Good
Is
morning, ma'am. We can
better
hear
now?
you now.
Okay, good morning. So thank you, Shanghai Sheikh, for inviting us for your continuing professional education through the initiative of Dr. Neri. Good morning, Dr. Neri.
Hello, ma'am. Good
And
morning.
through our able rapporteur, John Aldrin Antonio. Okay, so let's go to technical session. The train law was actually initiated through Congress and Senate, and the reason for it is this: to achieve the vision of the government. So we have here sustained borrowings, budget reforms, tax and customs administration reforms, tax policy reforms. You may notice that they are all reforms. Why? In life, change is constant, which means we have to do for a better world where we live in. And in here, we have what you call security property rights, enhanced competition, improved food security, and simplification of regulations. So, in a manner of how we go through business, we simply say that these are the ways to increase additional investment and complementary reforms we have to go through. Now, why tax policy reform is needed? As you may notice, they are all reforms simply because we have a deficient tax system and we have to accept that. So when the president came in, he is from the local government as mayor and also a congressman, but not as a senator or a vice president, which used to be the normal rounding activity of all presidents that came in. So what he did is know the causes or the plight of the people. So what we have gone through is, no, ano ba ang pulso? Ano bang gusto ng tao? And that's the cause. So the cause is inflation, special treatment and exemption, and lack of information, particularly bank secrecy for purposes of taxation. And with these causes, the effects, we have high tax rates, narrow tax base, and only half of the economy is being taxed, which means there should be rigorous methodology for us to go through expanding more of taxpayers to be taxed. And the outcome, inequality, complexity, inefficiency. So in this, we wanted to cure it through what you call tax reform to fund the 10-point socio-economic agenda of the government. Now, this is the 10-point socio-economic agenda of the government when we pass Train Law 1. Okay, however, because of the pandemic, some of this economic agenda were already modified by NEDA. Okay, so last month lang medyo may mga binago na sila in addition to the requirements we have during the pandemic. So the bandwagon of the president is build, build, build. Nararamdaman ba natin yung mga build, build na yan? Di
Opo
ba
naman.
nata-traffic tayo?
Opo.
Oo, ang ganda nga ng Skyway. Ay,
Oo,
Opo,
yan.
opo.
Nata-traffic tayo. Siyempre habang ginagawa, there are inconveniences, galit ang tao, pero once natapos, it's really something to hold
Opo.
on to. It
Yeah.
makes life more fruitful, kanga natin.
Yeah, opo.
So there were changes on the train law, for particularly on income tax, and that's actually the discussion for this morning. So there are other changes like value-added tax, percentage taxes, excise taxes in particular, but those will not be discussed for this morning simply because tomorrow is already March. So that means filing season na. Pag filing season, ang discussion natin definitely should be income taxation because that's what people would want to know. What are these changes, including some reminders for you to avail of the tax amnesty and the VAP, VAPP. So, let's focus first on income tax kasi ito yung kailangan ng business community and what are some of the activities as a take-off before you file your income tax return. So, the objectives of the train is familiarization of how to file income tax returns, identify who are those required to file ITRs, identify those who are not required to file ITRs, when to file ITRs, manual and electronic filing of ITR, manual and electronic payment of ITR. So you may notice the introduction of Aldrin is that it is more of knowing sino ba yung mga dapat mag-file, kailan ba dapat mag-file, ano ba yung mga requirements ng filing. Because these are things that taxpayers usually would want to know as they comply. Because truly, there are two things in life we don't want to happen. Ano yung ayaw natin mangyari? Una, ayaw natin lahat mamatay. Agree? Yes.
Opo.
Pangalawa, ayaw nating lahat magbayad ng tamang buwis. But as mentioned by Dr. Mary, we cannot do so. Death is inevitable. It can happen anytime. Walang pinipiling araw, oras, at edad. Pwede kang mamatay anytime. So, we must always be ready day in, day out to face our Creator. Doing good to others is the most that we can do because anything we have materially, we cannot bring it to heaven anyhow. Right? And second, taxes. Sino gusto magbayad ng tamang buwis? Sabi nga natin, but it is our obligation because government cannot move on without taxes that we pay. We all share somehow for the betterment of our country. So we also have the required attachments. In fact, medyo merong controversial ngayon na bago yung tinatawag nating related party transactions. So those are some adjustments that we have to. Filing using itemized deduction, filing using the optional standard deduction, or we simply call it OSD, filing under the 8% income tax rates, particularly for those individuals earning 3 million below. Dapat mas simple yung pamamaraan nila kung papaano sila magbayad ng buwis. Okay? So these are some of the items that we go through. So we will pass on through it because if we will really discuss it thoroughly, baka isang linggo tayo mag-seminar. In fact, these topics that I am discussing with you are the topics I also discuss with examiners that audit you. So kapag examiners po, ang tinitrain ko, 2 linggo po ito at maraming mga exams ang binibigay sila, maraming computations exam. But because of time elements, sabi nga ni Dr. Neri, ang ating proviso lang for today is 9 to 12. Siyempre, we will have to give enough time for the Q&A so people can possibly ask anything from the heart. So at this point in time, as I go to my discussion, I advise our participants, our webinar participants, to go over the chat box located at the bottom of your screen. Kapag meron po kayong hindi naintindihan, chat. Kapag meron po kayong gustong klaruhin, chat. So put it all in there and we'll try to go over what are the comments you have in the chat box. We will try to answer them during the open forum. And we will also give you time to open your microphone if you want to ask questions over the mic, to have actual discussions with me later on. So tignan natin kung may oras pa. Aldrin, no? So we'll go over all of these things, okay? So we'll go to the subject matter, the general principles of taxation in the Philippines, except when otherwise provided by the code. This is under section 23. Anong sabi natin? A citizen of the Philippines residing therein is taxable on all income derived from sources within and without. In short, kapag ikaw'y Pilipino, ang taxation mo global. Kumita ka sa Pilipinas, kumita ka sa labas ng Pilipinas, dapat ideklara mo yan sa Pilipinas din. For non-resident citizen is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines, which means kung sila ay hindi naman Pinoy, but they earn income in the Philippines, definitely they have to be taxed only on income derived within the Philippines because we do not have taxing power of their income outside the Philippines. For individual citizen of the Philippines who works or derives income abroad as an overseas contract worker, is taxable on income derived from sources within the Philippines. Sabi nga natin, ang mga OFW natin, OCW natin ay bagong bayani, right? Wala atang Pilipino ngayon na walang OFW sa pamilya nila somehow, somewhere. So, provided that seaman who is a citizen of the Philippines and who receives compensation for services rendered abroad as a member of a complement of a vessel, engaged exclusively in international trade shall be treated as overseas contract workers. Do you know that number 1 ang Pilipinas sa overseas contract worker na seaman? Tayo po ang nagbibigay ng pinakamaraming seaman globally. Wala po atang barko na nasa dagat, nasa laot, na walang Pilipino.
Talaga.
Okay, we are actually the provider of great seamen around the world. Okay? For alien individuals, whether resident or not, of the Philippines, is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines. Now, let's go to corporation because you have the choice. You want to go business as individual or earn income as individual, or you want to earn as corporation. So two things here. A domestic corporation is taxable on all income derived from sources within and without the Philippines, especially now na nasa digital age tayo, e-commerce tayo. So pwede kang kumita hindi lang sa Pilipinas but global. So if you are a domestic corporation, then you should be taxed on a global scenario. What about foreign? Whether engaged or not in trade or business in the Philippines is taxable only on income derived from sources within the Philippines. This is what we call cycles of taxation. Okay? So these are general rules for which we have to abide to. So what is income? Income is a tax on person's income. Anong klaseng income meron tayo? A lot. The more income we have, the happier we go. So like practice of profession. Anong klaseng profession mo? Abogado, accountant, engineer, arkitekto, and a lot more professions listed with PRC or the Supreme Court. You also have what you call conduct of trade. Anong klaseng negosyo mo? Trading, manufacturing, service, iba-ibang klaseng negosyo. We have to pay income tax. And on pertinent items of gross income specified in the tax code as amended. So if we have income, syempre gusto natin marami tayong income. Pero pag may income ka, there are deductions. Ito yung puhunan mo, ito yung expenses mo, which by law will allow it to be deducted. Unless otherwise, you are defined not to under the laws. So, income means all wealth which flow into the taxpayer other than the mere return of capital. So, what is taxable means? Pertinent income of gross income specified in the tax code, less deduction, if any, authorized for such type of income by the tax code or other special laws. So, gross means all income. Anong klaseng income? In cash. Siyempre, gusto natin laging in cash. Pwede ring in kind, bahay, kotse, stocks. Pwede. Okay? From whatever source. The word from whatever source is critical in here. So, saan source ba? Legal or illegal? Aba, si BIR. Lahat. Whether the source is legal or illegal. Sa totoo lang po, ang nakakatakot ay kung ikaw ay mabisita ng BIR. Kung ikaw ay may allegation si BIR. But remember, any issues or confrontations as that, one of the items is vested with the power of that commissioner to audit you. So, when the word says, whatever source, pwedeng legal or illegal. So, yung mga lord natin, gambling lord, ano pa? O lord, ano pa? So, lahat ng klase ng sources, you have to declare it with the BIR. So, I remember the story of Al Capone, the great Al Capone in the United States. Lahat ng klase ng krimen, nalusutan niya. Lahat. Magnanakaw, mamamatay tao, at kung ano-ano mga krimen niya. Lahat nalusutan niya. Pero nung pumasok na ang IRS, which is equivalent to BIR, sorry na lang Al Capone, nakulong siya. Okay? Kaya po, napakahirap kapag BIR ang pumasok. Kaya kung controversial kang tao, siguradong BIR nandiyan na sa iyo. So, don't make yourself controversial, okay? So that the BIR will not have an eye to you. So, what comprises gross income? It says, includes but not limited to the following: compensation for services, in whatever form paid, including but not limited to fees, salaries, wages, commissions, and similar items. You have gross income derived from the conduct of trade or practice and exercise of profession. So napakarami nating klaseng profession. Ngayon, digital world, napakaraming new profession. Digital analyst, digital technologist, iba-ibang klaseng profession ang pumapasok ngayon. We have also gains derived from dealings in property. Sa Chinese community, maraming ganyan. So they earn, they buy good properties and sell it. Okay? We also have interest. Marami kang pera, lagay mo sa bangko, it earn interest for you. Rents, yan. We also have royalties, dividends, annuities, prizes and winnings. Okay? Pensions, partners distributive share from net income of a general professional partner, mga law firm, accounting firm, architectural firm, engineering firm, are all part and parcel of gross income. Sa totoo lang, pag tinanong kayo, anong mas masarap? Kumita o gumastos? Ano mas masarap? Some would simply say, Ma'am, mas masarap kumita. I disagree. Mas masarap pong gumastos. Sa totoo lang. Pero, ang tanong, meron ka bang gagastusin? Now, it's pandemic. As much as possible, we have to ensure that only the basic necessities should be in. Kasi hindi natin alam hanggang kailan tong pandemic na yon. So people are really frugal at the most this time because what they usually buy are needs of men, not normally the wants. Ay mapapansin nyo ngayon, ang booming lang ngayon yung mga need, yung mga bukas na, sa isang araw na, sa linggo na. Right? Okay. So what are exclusions from gross income? The following items shall not be included in gross income and shall be exempt from income tax. So life insurance. So yung mga nagtitinda po ng life insurance, ganito ang sasabihin nila. Bili ka na! Tax-free to! Yan. Kaya maganda. Another is amount received by the insured as a return of premium. Ang tawag natin dyan, ka-surrender. Yung ibabalik na yung ating mga inihulog. We have gift, bequest devices, compensation for injuries and sickness, income exempt under treaty, retirement benefits, pension. So yung mga nagpe-pension, after years of giving the best of their life, pensionado na sila. Paupo-upo na lang sila. Hayahay ang tawag sa kanila. Hayahay na buhay. Walang tax po yun. So we also have miscellaneous items as exempt from income tax. Income derived from foreign government, income derived by government or its political subdivision. Ito yung mga LGUs, GOCCs na walang proprietary function. Prizes and awards in sports competition. You also have ito. Yan, favorite ng mga empleyado yan. 13th month and other benefit but not to exceed 90,000 pesos. So that's also part of the exclusion. So, kunyari malaki sweldo mo. Magkano sweldo mo? Example lang. Ang sweldo mo, 200,000 per month. Magkano 13th month mo? 200,000 kasi malaki sweldo mo. 90,000 walang tax, 110 taxable. Maliit lang ang sweldo ko. Kunyari, maliit lang sweldo. Pagpalagay natin ng sweldo, 25,000 lang. So, your 13th month pay is 25,000 lang. So, meron ka pang extra for other benefits so that you can have 90,000 total non-taxable. Okay? You also have GSIS, SSS, Medicare, and other contribution. And we're referring here to employee share. Kaya yung kinakalta sa mandatory social contribution natin, ibinabawas muna natin bago mag-compute ng tax. So take note, we're only limited to mandatory employee share. Hindi po kasama ang employer share. Okay? Gains from sale of bond, debentures, and other certificate of indebtedness with maturity of more than 5 years. And gains from redemption of shares in mutual fund defined under Section 222BB of the tax code are all considered exclusions from gross income. So, what are the allowable deductions? Kapag ikaw ayaw mo na maglista, magsulat, to monitor your expenses and purchases, then the best way for you to do is optional standard deduction. Ito yung trabahong tamad, ika nga natin. Deduction na tamad. Where for individuals, an amount not exceeding 40% of your gross sales or receipt. So madali nga naman i-compute. Magkano benta, less 4%, yun na yung purchases mo and expenses mo. So the remaining 60% will already be taxable. Now, is optional standard deduction only for individuals? No, we also have for corporation. an amount not exceeding 40% of gross income. Notice, they are both 40%, but the difference is the baseline. For individual, it's gross sales receipt. For corporation, it is gross income. Why gross income sa corporation? Magkaiba. So, ibig sabihin, pag gross income, ibinawas mo na yung mga direct expenses, direct cost mo. The reason for it at 40% gross income is that corporations are mandated by law to have what you call 2% minimum corporate income tax, where the baseline is gross income. Kaya, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-40% OSD on gross sales and receipt. Okay? Kasi pag nagko-compute ka sa corporation, you compute it at 30, you compute it at 2% MCIT, whichever is higher. That's the reason why for corporate, if they are on to OSD, the baseline is 40% of gross income. And OSD is not allowed to non-resident alien individual, not allowed to general professional partnership. They may avail of it only once, either as a GPP or partner comprising the partnership, but it can never be both. Okay? So we also have what you call, so kung ayaw mo ng itemize, kasi ang itemize, hayahay na buhay. So magkano ang benta? So ang monitor mo lang yung benta mo. Magkano benta? Less 40%. So yung 30% taxable mo na yon. Right? So madali nga naman kasi hindi mo na i-monitor magkano binili ko, magkano may expenses ko, gasolina, telephone, etc. Hindi mo na ilalagay kasi madaling mag-compute OS 40%. Bukod sa walang tanong-tanong si BIR during audit and examination. Walang i-disallow na expense si BIR pag in-audit ka. Kaya napakarami na taxpayers would wanna avail OSD. Kasi between you and an itemized deduction, BIR will definitely focus first on itemized. Kasi sa itemized, kailangan i-dokumento mo yung expenses mo. You must have the complete documentation. Otherwise, it will be this. Okay? So, who are required to file income tax returns? Employees deriving pure compensation income from 2 or more employers concurrently or successively in any time during the year. Di ba ma'am qualified sila for substituted filing? Opo. Actually, yours truly was one of those who initiated what you call substituted filing. Kasi when I was chief of withholding tax division, I was overwhelmed with the millions and millions of filing of 1700, the blue form. So sabi ko, kawawa naman itong mga to, nagpapile tuwing April 15, nagmamadali. Stress sila sa kapapile nila when in fact, they need not pay any. Because year-end adjustment is instituted, ensuring that tax due equals tax withheld. Pero at that time, nabago ako na hepe ng withholding tax division. Milyong-milyon nakapila sa initan ng araw. Ang hirap. Basta deadline ng filing, parang pista sa Quiapo ata, yung sa dami ng taong pumupunta sa BIR. Sabi ko, is there a way for these people not to be filing anymore their returns? Anyway, bayad naman yung tax nila. Tama naman yung tax nila. So we institutionalize substituted filing where kung pure compensation income ka, tax due equals tax withheld, coming from one employer in the Philippines, you don't need to file income tax anymore. Okay, because the employer will be the ones to do it for you. However, there are employees with 2 or more employers, either concurrent or successive. What do you mean by concurrent? Sabay-sabay. Kunyari si Dr. Kunyari, si Dr. Neri, tumatanggap siya sa Shanghai check ng compensation. But bukod sa Shanghai check, kunwari lang, may income si Dr. Neri, kunwari sa Ateneo, sa Miriam, sa De La Salle. Ang dami niyang source of income. At meron pa siyang overseas teaching sa University of Singapore, University of Bangladesh, University of India. Pwede mangyari? Oh, yes.
Pwede.
In the digital world where we in, pwede kang maging professor elsewhere around the world. Kaya ako, I accepted a professorial activity outside the country. Pwede. Kasi nga, digital na yung methodology natin.
Opo.
Right? So, in this scenario, where the employee got concurrent, sabay-sabay, sorry na lang, dapat mag-file ka ng return. Ano naman ibig sabihin ng successive? Successive means within the year, nagkaroon ka ng employer na 2 or more. Kunyari, first semester, Jollibee ka. Tapos, lumipat ka sa McDonald's. So, dalawa yung employer mo within the year. Kahit si Jollibee Jollibee, nag-tax due equals tax withheld. O kaya si McDonald's, nag-tax due equals tax withheld. Hindi pa rin pwede. Dapat ka pa rin mag-file ng return. Because you may be belonging to a higher income tax bracket. So, another filers of income tax returns are employees deriving pure compensation income resulting to collectible, refundable. May babayaran pa. Or may ikiklaim na refund. Kung may ikiklaim siya na refund, hindi sa BIR yan. Ikiklaim niya dapat yan kay employer. But the employee needs to file income tax returns. Those who are self-employed individual receiving income from conduct of trade or practice of profession. So ito po yung mga individual. Ang dami nating professionals. At ang dami rin klase ng negosyo. So, should they file return? Oh yes, regardless of income they derive. So when you say professionals, these are persons formally certified by the professional body belonging to specific profession by virtue of having completed the required exams. Kunyari, CPA board exams, architectural board exams, engineering board exams, medical board exams. Ngayon, kung ikaw naman po ay abogado, o di IBP naman, sa Supreme Court naman. Kung ikaw naman ay piloto, sa CAAP ka naman. Kung ikaw naman marino, sa maritime, marina naman. So these are the professional bodies that regulates the practice of the profession. Pero, yun bang professional na yun lang isasama natin? Ay, hindi po. There are also professionals in their own right. One, who engages in some art or sports for money as a means of livelihood rather than a hobby. A good example of those engaged in art, artista. Kim Chu, Chris Aquino, Sharon Cuneta. Do they earn much? Oh, millions and millions. Sports for money. Ito yung mga basketballista natin. Chris Chu. Yan. So, sports for money. Kilala natin. Senator Manny Pacquiao, the billionaire. Right? They are earning. It's a means of livelihood rather than a hobby. Are they considered professional? Oh, yes. But they are not registered with any professional body elsewhere. Okay? It also includes, but not limited to, yan. Yung mga yan. Kasama yan, ma'am. Mga director ng TV, director ng mga concerts, yes. It also includes insurance agents and insurance adjusters. Ito yung mga actuaries. Yan, malalaki kumita yung mga actuaries. Management and technical consultants. Woo! Lalaki ng kita ng mga consultant. Kasi ang ginawa nila, sulsul ng sulsul. Sulsul ng sulsul. Ano yung sulsul ng sulsul? Siyempre, sasabihin mo, maganda yan mayor, maganda yan gobernador, maganda yan congressman. Oh, yan. So, they are actually helping out to make the world a better place to live in. Okay? We also have bookkeeping agents. We also have other recipients of professional, promotional, and talent fees. Example of professional, yung mga voice-over. Yan. Okay. Welcome to Philippine Airlines. Yan. Ibayad yun, ma'am. Promotional? Oo, yung mga mga advertisement, talent fees. Kunwari, sa isang pelikula, kailangan na maraming crowd. Oh. So, pag na-take up na yung maraming crowd, 500 pesos ang katapat niyan. O kaya kailangan mang binubugbog. Oh, 500 pesos ang katapat niya. Sobrang bugbog, 2,000 ang katapat niya. Do they receive? Yes, that's called what you call bit players. May kita sila. Should they be taxed? Yes, they should also be taxed because they earn income. We also have what you call individuals deriving mixed income. Ang tawag ko dyan, masisipag. Bakit masisipag? So, nagsusweldo na 8 to 5, nagtatrabaho. Tapos, meron pang business o kaya may practice of profession. So, ito yung maparaan. Ito yung mga grupo ng maparaan. Sumusweldo na, pero break time, naglalako siya. Tusino, longganisa, panty. Kabaong. Ayan, mga lilalako nila. Pwede? Oo, maparaan sila eh. They make use of the break time to sell their wares. Bawal? Hindi. Kasi nasa break time naman sila. Or after office hours, may other income sila. Nagko-call center agents yung iba. Kaya pagkatapos ng gabi, ano naman sila? DI, dance instructor. Yan. Pwede? Mixed income.
Yes.
Okay? So we also have income deriving other non-business, non-professional related income in addition to compensation income not otherwise subject to final tax. Kunwari, si Doktora Neri, nagtuturo ko diyan sa Shanghai. Tapos inimbita kunwari siya ng Chinese Chamber. Sabi, Neri, mag-discuss ka naman sa amin ng executive course. Oh. So sabi ni Dr. Neri, okay, half day? Oo, 25,000. Kunwari lang, Dr. Neri.
Opo, opo.
So is that in business? Hindi. That is non-business, non-professional related income. Honorario na binigay ng chamber sa kanya, parang sinabi mo lang na, pampalubag loob. Dr. Neri, pagkatapos mo ng chamber, mag-grocery ka na. Can that happen? Yes, that's non-business, non-professional related income. Should you declare that as income? Pag tinanong mo kay Dr. Neri, ang sasagot niya, hindi. Well, it all depends. Galing na yan sa puso. Kasi minsan meron, depende kasi kung paano nililibro yan, the person who's giving it. Okay? Pag nilagay niya miscellaneous income, then possibly hindi na yan i-declare ni Dr. Neri. Pero kunwari, si Dr. Neri, kinaltasan because of the honorarium given, aba, ibig sabihin, the payor included that as part of professional fee expense. Nire-report yung kay BIR. So dapat, kapag si Dr. Neri nakatanggap ng 2307 certificate, kailangan niyang i-report yan under non-business, non-professional related income. Okay? So sana walang 2307 kasi pag may 2307, aba, kailangan i-declare yan. Kaya kung walang 2307, aba, ibubulsa na yan ni Dr. Neri. Pang-grocery na niya pakatapos.
Grocery.
Okay? We also have individuals receiving pure compensation income from single employer, although the income of which not correctly withheld. Okay? Okay? Correctly withheld si empleyado, pero si spouse is not entitled to substituted filing. Kunwari, si Aldrin, compensation income, pure. Kasi professor siya sa Shanghai Shek, tax due equals tax withheld. Pero ang wife niya, kunwari lang, doktora, practice of profession. Sorry naman, dahil joint filing sila, hindi siya pwedeng hindi mag-file ng return. Okay? So si Aldrin for compensation tax equals tax withheld together with the wife who is a doctor practicing, hindi pwede ng non-filing. Hindi siya pwede ng substituted. They need to file income tax returns. Okay? We also have resident citizen who should be filing returns. Alien should also be filing returns. For non-individual, corporation, domestic, and foreign should also be filing returns. So, yun yung mga nagpa-file ng returns. First, compensation income. Pag ikay tumatanggap ng compensation income, bibigyan ka ng employer mo ng tinatawag na 2316, which summarizes lahat ng compensation mo, lahat ng withholding tax. Ibibigay yan ni employer sa'yo, and that will be the baseline for you to file your income tax return. We're referring to employees with multiple employers, either successive or concurrent. Okay? So the filing of this is on or before April 15, covering the income for 2019 yan, 2020 na po tayo. Okay. So we have the 1700, or we simply call this the blue form. It's the annual income tax return for individuals earning pure compensation income. And we also have the magenta colored form. Okay. It's the annual income tax return for self-employed individuals, estates, and trusts. But when the train law came in, where we introduced the 8% option income, we also introduced a new form, a shorter form. Kasi si 1700 is one pager. Si 1701, 4 pages po yan. So medyo malahaba-haba siya. Nag-introduce po kami ng new form which we call it 1701A. Okay? This is the annual income tax returns for purely from business and profession, where they use graduated income tax rates with OSD as mode of deduction or opted to avail of the 8% flat income tax rates. Dahil madali, simple, one-pager lang si 1701. Remember, the filers of this are purely from business or profession. So pag mix ka, hindi ka pwede sa 1701. Okay?
Yes, yes.
So here are some more iterations that we have regarding the filing for 2020. Kalimitan na nagiging problema natin, bangko. Sabi kasi ni bank, bawal na. Sabi ni bank, cut off na. Sabi ni bank, ito lang ang kailangan niyang tanggapin kasi tapos na daw yung quota nila. So sabi natin, reiteration on the implementation of certain policies and acceptance of annual income tax returns for payment for calendar year 2020. So ito po yung pinaghahandaan natin ngayon. 1, accept all taxpayers' payments being made by taxpayers using any of the following. Ang importante, makabayad tayo. A, BIR official printed forms, copies of system-generated filing reference number, photocopies of returns, computer-generated or electronically filed returns, either EBIR forms or EFPS. C, new versions of BIR Form 1700, 1701, 1701A, 1702RT, EX, and MX, and D, downloaded annual income tax returns originally filled out and signed by taxpayer or his duly authorized representative per Bank Bulletin 2018-5 dated April 5, 2018. Receive the income tax return by stamping the official receiving seal on spaces provided in the 3 copies of the return, whether or not the taxpayer is under the jurisdiction of the regional office with document processing, and any copy of return in excess of 3 copies shall not be stamped. So hanggang 3 lang po. Pwede lang kung bangko ay kung ikaw ay corporation. Accordingly, in cases of corporation and other juridical person, 1702, stamping of receipt shall be extended in at least 2 additional copies of audited financial statement aside from those attached in the annual ITR to satisfy the requirements of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Kasi kapag nakapag-file ka ng ITR na po kay BIR, ang next step is pupunta ka na kay SEC. Okay? Kasi nag-update ka ng iyong GIS, General Information Sheet, together with an ITR and financial statement with stamp from the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Kaya pag corporation, bukod sa 3, nagdagdag ka pa ng 2 kasi meron kang dagdag na requirement for SEC. 4, ensure that pertinent portions of income, tax returns, and deposit slips are machine validated and the details of tax payment should be clearly imprinted on all copies. So pag nagbabayad po tayo sa bangko, huwag niyo basta iwanan. Ay ma'am, kaibigan ko kasi yung manager eh. Alam po ninyo, marami ngayon nangyayaring scam where iniwanan yung pera sa bangko, hindi naman vinalidate. Ayan, nagkaroon tuloy ng problema sa BIR. 5, accept payments made through checks and or combination of cash and check in the payment of a single tax liability provided that the said checks are prepared in accordance with the provision of RR 16202. So, pwede daw check. Pwede rin din cash. Siyempre, mas gusto natin yung cash. Pero kung cheque-cheque kayo, okay lang, cheque-cheque. Ma'am, combination, cash check, pwede rin. Ang importante, magbayad tayo. The issue here is, paano ba mag-prepare ng cheque? Kasi minsan, nandun ka na sa bangko, ay, mali po yan, hindi ganyan ang cheque, dapat ganito. So, ito po yung guidelines natin. Below is a sample of tax check payment where drawee bank, presenting bank are different from each other. Different daw pa. So, kunwari, RCBC yung cheque. Pero, magbabayad ka para sa BIR at ang pagbabayaran mo ay land bank. Ayan, land bank. So, dapat ilalagay mo, land bank batasan for the account, sabi niya, for the account of Bureau of Internal Revenue. Ganyan po dapat yung paraan kung paano tayo mag-prepare ng cheque. Ano po? Okay, dito naman sa ilalim. Below is a sample of check tax payment drawn and presented to the same bank. So, kunyari, ang cheque natin RCBC, magbabayad tayo sa RCBC din. Itong cheque natin ay sa RCBC Legazpi branch. Magbabayad tayo ng RCBC saan naman? Yan, RCBC Legazpi Village. So, ganyan. RCBC Legazpi Village for the account of the Bureau of Internal Revenue and then the amount. Okay? That should be the manner that you will be filing income tax returns. And at the back of it, pangalan ng taxpayer who is filing the return together with the TIN para alam natin kung para saan yung bayad na yan. Okay? So, not accepted as check payment. Bawal daw po ito mga to. Doktora Neri, may test ba yung mga estudyante mo pagkatapos ng seminar? Magandang ibigay pong exams yan.
Opo,
Oo.
opo.
The following
mag-discuss
checks
yan.
are, however, not accepted as check payment for internal revenue taxes. 1. Accommodation checks. These are checks issued or drawn by a party other than the taxpayer making the payment. Bawal yan. Number 2. Second, endorsement checks. Checks issued to the taxpayer as payee who endorses the same as payment of tax. Bawal din po ang second endorsement. Number 3, stale check. Okay. Checks dated more than 6 months prior to presentation to the authorized agent bank. Bawal din po ang stale check. Number 4, post-dated checks. Checks dated a day or several days after the presentation to the authorized agent bank. 5, unsigned check. Checks with no signature by drawee. And 6, checks with alterations, erasures. So very critical po si BIR sa mga may alterations. Okay? In fact, ang mga bangko ngayon, pag may alteration, dati pag may alteration ka, pipirmahan mo lang. Diba? Dati ganun lang. Ngayon, ayaw na nila. Napakahigpit ng bangko ngayon. Accredited agent bank accepting checks for payment of BIR taxes and other charges must see to it that checks covers one tax type for one return period only. In short, hindi mo pwedeng biyak-biyakin yung cheque mo. Kunyari, 1,000,000. Yung 600,000 dyan, pang compensation. Yung 400, pang expanded, bawal po yun. Dapat isang cheque, isang
Sa lahat.
tax type. Okay? Second endorsement of checks which are payable to the Bureau of Internal Revenue or Commission of Internal Revenue is absolutely prohibited. Okay? So, dahil March na, so filing is an offing. So sa Lunes, March na, filing season na. In fact, pag February po, mag-e-end ng February, ang BIR po nagkakaroon ng tinatawag na tax campaign kick-off. Where drums are coming out, announcements are coming out. Pero ngayon po, pandemic po, bawal po kasi ang face-to-face. Bawal po ang crowd. Bawal. Kaya hindi kami pwedeng mag-tax campaign kasi minsan nag-motorcade kami just to announce that, hey, it's filing season. So ngayon, hindi po namin siya magawa. In fact, we have the National Tax Campaign kick-off at PICC pero hindi po kami nag-imbita ng napakaraming tao because we also fear na magkaroon tayo ng COVID. So we simply invited several big firms like MBP, Manuel Pangilinan, Aboitiz, Rason, Ayala. So selected bigwigs in the industry and we just had what you call kapihan ba, yung question and answer portion para maano lang po namin ang kick-off. Okay? So, ang tanong is, ma'am, filing season na. May trabaho po kami. So, ito po, sabi natin, yung 2 Saturdays, ngayon, ay allowed po. Bukas po ang mga bangko. March 27, April 10, bukas po. 2 Saturdays before the deadline. Pwede. So, bukas ma'am sila? Yes po. So, wag po kayong para hindi maperwisyo yung ating trabaho. Saturdays, we have advised the bank that they should be open. However, the machine validation of annual ITR in the deposit slip for tax payments received shall be on the date of actual receipt of collection. Okay? So, banks to comply with the obligations provided in the Memorandum of Agreement and executed by accredited agent bank, the BIR, and the Bureau of Treasury. A, so banks should accept all tax payments during regular banking hour and to extend banking hours during tax deadline. To open bank operations 2 Saturdays, that's March 27, 2021, April 10, 2021, immediately prior to April 15 of every year, and extended banking hours from 3 to 5 p.m. from April 1 to 15. Di po ba maalwan yan, Dr. Neri?
Opo.
Para
opo.
hindi magmadali ang mga tao.
Yes.
Ay, ma'am, closing ng bank. So hanggang 5 po. April
Opo.
1 to 15. To accept check payments even after check clearing time, especially during tax deadline. Kasi may mga bangko, 12 o'clock hanggang dun lang. The following day na. Sabi natin, filing season, dapat accept lahat. To accept tax payments even after the prescribed due date. So, ma'am, after April 15 na, sige lang. Ang importante, nagbabayad ng buwis. To accept other bank checks, to accept check payment even from non-client, to accept downloaded and photocopied tax returns but originally filled up and signed by the taxpayer. Kunyari, dinownload yung form, sinerox, tapos sinulatan. Okay yun, pwede yun. Importante may pirma. Not to impose any other additional fees on taxpayers, top of tax payments. Bawal yon. Not to set up limits as to the number of tax forms, returns, and taxes to be serviced. Kasi may mga bangko, first 200 lang, after 200, bawal na. Bukas na, bawal po yun. Not to designate any particular hour or day for the acceptance of tax payments during the regular and extended banking hours. May mga bangko kasi na pambayad sa BIR Lunes at saka Wednesday lang. All the rest of the week, bawal na. Hindi po, bawal po yun. Okay? Not to require the opening of deposit account as a prerequisite in accepting tax payment. Bawal din po. So, dapat tanggap ng tanggap lang sila because they are our partners in tax collection. To accept tax payments from taxpayers who are already within the bank's premises by the close of the said extending hours. Pasok mo kaagad, Dr. Neri, yung sampaa mo pag closing time. Basta nakapasok lang isang paa, bawal na pagbawalan ka ng bangko. Okay? Oo. Kasi alam mo ang Pilipino, napaka-normal tayo. Kung kailan deadline din tayo nagmamadali. Ang dami naman pagkakataon. Di po! Ganon din ang estudyante. Sabi, deadline for the submission of requirement. Ganyan, mahigpit ako dyan. Pag sinabi kong 12 noon ang submission, 12 noon. Pag nag-12:01, mag-enroll ka na lang next semester. Okay? Because I always provide specific deadline. Lagi ko nire-remind, deadline na ha. Yung submission nyo ng thesis inyo, 12 noon. Deadline yung mga report nyo, 12 noon ng ganitong araw. Tapos hindi pa rin nag-submit. Nag-submit siya, 12:05. Sorry, next semester na tayo magkita. To accept manually file and out of district returns. So parang file anywhere concept. Kasi pandemic po. Malay mo, na-lock out siya dito sa Maynila. Taga Iloilo pala siya. Bawal mag-file dito sa Maynila? Pwede. Ang importante, nagbabayad po ng buwis. So, if for manual filers, gagamitin niya pre-printed returns. Ito yung may mga kulay, blue, magenta, green. Okay lang. Fill out all applicable fields and file to authorized agent bank or collection agent. Or, pwede naman yung downloaded. Punta ka, ayaw mo punta sa BIR para humingi ng form. Available naman siya online eh. O di-download mo. Sulatan mo. Fill it out. File it with the BIR. Okay. Pero ang tanong, ba't ka pa magsusulat? Kung pwede naman i-encode mo, alam mo naman ng mga tao ngayon, hirap nang magsulat. Encode mo na lang. So, gumamit ka ng EBIR tokens. Encode. Pagbalik, delete. Di pwede. Edit. Edit mo na lang pag mali. If without tax payment, nung araw, pag walang tax payment, pupunta kay BIR, patatakan mo. Ngayon, hindi na. Pag walang bayad, i-online mo na. Okay? Ulitin natin ha. Lahat ng walang bayad, okay, i-online natin. So that means you're gonna use EBIR forms. So with tax due, once you use our EBIR forms, this is available for all taxpayers. So simply print the return, then a tax receipt and the tax receipt's confirmation that you have availed of the online. Okay? Then pag may bayad ka, then go to the bank and pay. Pag without payment, i-online mo siya. Pag filer ka naman, and you are filers of 1700, 1701, 1701A, yan. You are to use the EBIR forms package instead. Kasi may mga forms tayo na hindi pa available sa EFPS. Okay. So, with or without tax due payment, file through EFPS facility by using the old version for corporate. Anyway, ang corporate rate natin hindi pa naman po nabago. We are awaiting for the signature of the Create Law. Nasa desk na po ni Presidente. Sana bukas mapirmahan na siya. Okay? Definitely, the tax community will be happy because corporate income tax will go down. Okay?
Okay.
So, some reminders. wanna pay? Over the counter. Good. Pero di ba COVID? Hanggat maaari nga, bahay na lang tayo. Kasi mahirap magkasakit. Okay. The other day, I was so sad early morning. Di ba? Wala tayong pasok. That's February
EDSA.
25.
EDSA.
6 a.m., a good friend of mine, Ruby Chua, called me and said, Ma'am, wala na po si Wilson Chua. He's also in the business community in Binondo. He's a former barangay kapitan dyan sa Wanluna, the brother of Johnny Chua. Namatay po siya noong 25. And the wife was crying to me, Ma'am, wala na po siya. And what is very sad, pag COVID po namatay, hindi mo na makikita. So from the time he was taken from Wanluna by the ambulance to the medical city, hindi na po siya nakita ng buong pamilya. It was just the nurses who were there assisting him in the ICU. And when the hospital declared patay na siya due to COVID, hindi na rin po siya nakita. It's only the doctor pamangkin na nag-asikaso sa kanya. So, dumating po siya sa bahay nila, abo na siya. So, napakalungkot po, no, na during the last hours of your life, your family is not surrounding you. Kaya, mag-ingat po tayo. Kaya po yung over-the-counter payment, hanggat maaari, wag. Bakit? Kung pwede ka naman magbayad ng online. Ano po? Online na lang tayo para hindi kayo umaalis sa opisina, hindi kayo umaalis sa inyong lugar. Pwede ka naman magbayad sa mobile, GCash. Pwede ka magbayad ng Paymaya. Online na lang. Gamit sa cellphone. So, ma'am, pwede magbayad sa cellphone? Pwede po. O kaya, land bank. For those with ATMs with land bank, holders of banknet, ATM, or debit. So, pwede magbayad ng debit card ba? Pwede. Pwede rin DBP. For taxpayers or holders of Visa, Master Credit Card, and or ATM or debit card na DBP, pwede. Pwede ka rin gumamit ng Union Bank, web, or mobile payment. Or, ito yung mga uso ngayon, PesoNet. Taxpayers who have account with RCBC, Robinsons Bank, you can do online. So the filing for individuals is 1701. But, because you are engaged in business or practice of profession, may quarterly ka. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter. And you are using calendar operations. Basta individual calendar. Anong deadline mo? April 15, August 15, November 15. And for the annual final return is April 15 of the following year. You may even avail of second installment due October 15 if your tax due is over 2,000. Similarly for 1701. Ma'am, si 1701 may quarterly rin ba? Meron. May 1701 first, second, and third quarter. The difference is that pag 1701 ang ginamit mo, no financial statement required to be attached. Because users of 1701 are either OSD or 8% option, where FS is not a requirement. Okay? Kaya maraming individual with gross of 3 million and below na nagpa-file under 1701. Kasi hindi mo na kailangan ng accountant, hindi mo na kailangan ng financial statement. Makakapag-file ka ng mainam sa BIR, maayos sa BIR, with your gross sales or receipt of 3 million below. So let's not make it too complicated. In compliance with what you call ease of doing business. Okay? So we have to help our business taxpayer. So the 1700 form is with attachments to 316. And the filers of this are those not qualified for substituted filing, which means these are employees with multiple employers, either successive or concurrent, or taxpayers with tax due not equal to taxes with them. So for corporation, we have 1702RT. It's the annual income tax return for corporation, partnership, and other non-individual, subject only to the regular income tax rate. What rate? 30%. So yan. Antayin natin yung create, train 2 na lumabas. Mababa, hindi na 30. So BIR Form 1702EX is the annual income tax return for use only by corporations, partnership, and other non-individual taxpayers exempt under the tax code. That's Section 30 and those exempted in Section 27C. And other special law with no other taxable income. The good example of 1702EX na filers, yung mga foundation, cooperatives, non-stock, non-profit, yan. Associations, organizations. Si Chiang Kai-shek ba may foundation? Mayroon. Yung mga Chinese family ba may foundation? Oo. O, dyan sila. Family, yan, 1702 EX. Should they file a return? Oh, sure. They should because they are also having sales or receipts. We also have 1702 MX, mix. Is the annual income tax return for corporations, partnership, and other non-individual with mixed income subject to multiple income tax rates? What do you mean by multiple? Exempt na, 30% pa. Pwede mangyari yan? Oo. Kunwari, si foundation exempted on their foundation activity because that's the primary purpose is stated in the SEC registration. Pero, si foundation, aba, may mga paupahang condominium. Yan. That's considered proprietary. So, the rental income is subject to corporate rate of 30. Zero na, plus 30 pa, multiple yon. Nangyayari? Opo. Similarly, cooperatives. Siyempre, they are acting within the purpose of being eco-ops. Kunyari, cooperative sila. Anong klaseng cooperative sila? Ano ma'am sila? Agricultural cooperative. So, agricultural cooperative, anything that relates to agriculture. Pero itong cooperative na ito, aba, yumaman. Dumami income. Anong ginawa niya? Aba, nagpatayo ng building, nagpaupa. Proprietary na yon. Si co-op, exempted on the cooperative activity. Pero yung proprietary niya, which is the rental, is now subjected to 30% rate. Kaya multiple. Or, ano yung or natin? With income subject to special or preferential rate, meaning these are corporations that do not belong to the 30% rule. Example, educational institutions. Kasi educational institution is taxed at 10%. Mababa kaysa sa 30. Another example, hospital, 10%. So educational, hospital, 10%. So special sila. Preferential rate sila. Kaya, the form that they're gonna use is not RT. Kasi si RT, lahat lang ng 30. Doon sila sa 1702. MX. Are we learning? Pag may issue po kayo, may comment po kayo, I advise you to go to the chat box, right? Anything that you want under the sun, issues that you want to go there, we will try to go over your comments and suggestions in the chat box later. Okay? So, Aldrin, mamaya, tingnan mo na lang yung mga pare-pareho. So,
Yes po.
those questions na pare-pareho, hindi na natin kailangan ulit-ulit.
Okay po.
Okay, so, if we will be overwhelmed by questions by the attendees, then group them accordingly. Kasi, ilan na ba tayong attendees natin? Kanina parang 117 yung attendees natin. Mukhang nadadagdagan pa. Kasi mukhang yung mga nag-a-attend, Dr. Neri, mukhang nagtatawag sila ng mga friendship nila para mag-attend.
At maganda
okay.
kasi ang topic.
Because anyway,
Maganda ang
education
topic.
education is for all. Take advantage of this because it's free.
Opo,
Libre ni Dr. Neri, libre ng Chiang Kai-shek.
ng aming presidente.
Pag ito inatendan ninyo na seminar sa labas, may bayad. Siyempre, di ba? Dito, Dr. Neri, palakpakan ang kanyang innovativeness. And the rest of the class, definitely.
Salamat po.
Okay.
Salamat po.
Kasi sa totoo lang po, bihira na po akong tumatanggap ng mga speaking
I
English.
know. Dinasalan kita, ma'am. Dinasalan
Yes,
kita.
kasi po madami po akong trabaho sa opisina.
I know. Yeah.
I avoid accepting
Ma'am,
invitation.
this one I will tell you, pinikit ko yung mata ko. Pwede kang kapalit ni magpakailanman at saka ni Mel Changlo. Yun ang kapareho mong magsalita.
Kaya lang po hindi ko matanggihan kasi sabi ni Deputy Commissioner Celia King, Marivic, pag inimbitahan ka ni Dr. Neri, pagbigyan mo.
Opo.
Sabi ni Assistant Director Feli, Ma'am, may kailangan sa'yo. Anytime baka tawagan ka. Wag mo pong i-deny ang Chiang Kai ha. Pagbigyan mo po sila.
Salamat.
Marami po ang partidong nagsumamo sa akin. Kaya nung tinawagan ako ni Dr. Neri, I cannot refuse. Although I have a commitment for today, pero sabi ko, the commitment, i-cancel yan for Shanghai. Okay.
Super salamat na may tanaw ng utang na loob. Love
Hindi
you,
po, it's my pleasure to help. Especially if it is after office or Saturday, Sundays.
Pero ayaw namin na hindi ikaw. Ayaw namin.
I usually conduct lecture after office or pag after office, I go with IPGT pa. Kaya mapapansin po ninyo, may IPGT pa sa ilalim.com. If Saturday, Sundays, I accept other invitations from law firms, accounting firms, kunyari SGB, lahat ng auditors ng SGB, KPMG, Isla Lipana. So when they ask me, I usually ask them not on a working day, but invite me on a Saturday. Kalimitan po, Sunday sila. Minamandate nila lahat ng mga auditors nila to attend. Kaya ang nangyayari niyan, after my lecture, that's when they do already their necessary activity in the office. Tapos,
And in all honesty, lahat, pati Deputy Commissioner, ikaw po ang sinabi talaga.
pero wala na po ako sa operations, Dr. Neri. Hindi na po ako sa operations. Nasa HR na po ako, humbling po. My new role now is to recruit as much as possible and promote employees in the BIR who are deserving, yung mga workers natin kailangan natin i-promote.
At pangako naman, sa dami ng taga-BIR sa aming MBA, ang babait nila ha, mana sa mga big bosses like you. Mababait sila.
Kaya sa mga participants po natin, kung meron po kayong mga kamag-anak, kaibigan na CPA or lawyer, please email me. And we will be very much willing to assist them. Join the BIR. Hindi nga po kalakihan ng sweldo, but I'm telling you, very fruitful po pag natutunan nila ang tax law at gusto nilang lumabas in the future. Aba, napakagandang belonging. Yung mga talents natin, yung mga nalaman natin inside the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Okay? Because I also assist in the training content of the BIR.
And this will not be learned in the four corners of our classroom.
A lot of those things that I'm telling you are not read. Okay, these are a lot of them are actually more of practical scenarios that we experience. Okay? So let's continue.
Opo.
1702 RTE-XMX are the annual. It's the final return. That's why when we are being audited by the BRR, this will be the returns due asked of you. So deadline is April 15. Kaya lang napansin po ninyo, may June 15, June 15. Ito po yung 2019. Kasi yung mga June 30 na yan, in-extend po natin yung deadline kasi pandemic. Ngayon po, baka hindi na po natin extend. So baka hindi na po June 30 yung deadlines natin. So are corporations required to file quarterly income tax? Sure. They should be filing also 1701Q, first, second, third, which means that if they are on a calendar operation, which means they start January and end the 12-month operation December, that's May 30, August 30, November 30 respectively. Otherwise, they have to go follow their fiscal operation. Okay? So, may submission po ba? May attachments? Opo, audited financial statement, 2307, and a lot more. But the BIR, because of the pandemic, instituted EAFS. Ano yung EAFS? Electronic na yung attachment natin. Kasi nung araw, pag may attachments ka, punta ka sa BIR, tataka ni BIR. Di ba pipila ka, mainit na araw, ganyan. Eh ngayong pandemic, we try to avoid as much as possible face-to-face. Kasi baka either kami ang manghawa sa BIR o kami ang manghawa. Di ba? So, we want a healthy workplace. Okay? So, we instituted EAFS, which means your attachments to the ITR can now be through electronic form. So submission through the nearest revenue collection officer and option 2 using EAFS. So, ibig sabihin, hindi naman po bawal na we follow still the old procedure na manual. Eh kung malayong lugar yan, walang internet, eh natural, go manual ka. Sasubmit mo sa district through our revenue collection officer. So, how do we do the e-attachments? Ito kasi yung manual natin. 3 copies individual, 5 copies non-individual. Submit the ITR to the nearest RCO. Then, the RCO will step receive. So, face-to-face talaga. Tatanggapin niya. Kasi nga, walang internet. Now, ITRs with FRN, which means EFPS, ITRs with email confirmation for EBIR forms just in case, together with the attachments. The RCO will submit the ITR and attachments to your registered RDO. Pero hindi natin ngayon ine-encourage yung option 1. Ang ine-encourage natin si option 2, where online na. Kung pwedeng, lahat na lang online. Di ba? Ang sarap ng buhay pag lahat online. So step 1, you prepare the ITR and its attachment. 3 copies individual, 5 copies non-individual. Print and sign. And then, scan the document and save into a PDF file format. Rename file based on prescribed format. And then, go to www.bir.gov.ph and access the EAFS system. Then, make the necessary upload of your documents through the link. Once you have uploaded it, you will receive an email, transaction reference number, as proof of online submission and attachments. So, pag in-upload mo, sasagot yung EAFS namin na natanggap namin, yung iyong pinadala, bibigyan kanya ng tinatawag na transaction reference number. So, paano natin i-rename? Ganyan po. So, the income tax return is scan ninyo, i-rename ninyo. EAFS, the first 9 digits of your TIN, and then ilagay nyo anong ITR. Kunyari, nung 2019, naka-attach doon. ITR 2019. But because if ang fina-file natin ngayon ay 2020, lagay mo doon. ITR 2020. Sa ITR lang yan, mama. So, say for example, 1702 RT. Scan mo siya, and then, i-rename mo siya. For audited financial statements, so that means balance sheet, income statement, including the schedules, audited certificate, statement of management responsibility. So, scan mo rin yan, i-rename mo, yung file name mo, EAFS, anong nakalagay doon? AFS, Audited Financial Statement 2020. Na ang laman, balance sheet, income statement, audited certificate, statement of management responsibility. All other attachments, ilalagay mo na dito. EAFS, the 9 digit of your TIN, others, OTH. Then lagay mo 2020. Kung marami kang attachments, lagyan mo na -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. And then upload it, tapos makakatanggap ka ng transaction reference number. Okay? So how to use it? You need to enroll. Then you upload the ITR, the audited FS, others. Di ba tatlo yun? Huwag mong pagsasama-samahin lahat. So we also have what you call password management. So you can change your password. You can also reset just in case you forgot your password. Okay? So ganito po ang itsura ng EAFS pag in-access mo sa website ni BIR. So magiging tanong, registered ka na ba dito sa system namin? Siyempre, ang ilalagay mo ay hindi. So, dahil hindi, not registered, i-click mo yung not registered para magpakilala ka dahil gusto mong gamitin yung EAFS. So, click mo yung not registered. Pag click mo nung not registered, yan, lalabas na po yung enrollment form. So, all you have to do is fill up the enrollment form based on your COR. Pangalan, address, sinong contact number, yan. And then, click the statement of undertaking. So, anong laman ng enrollment form natin? TIN, registered name, email, RDO code, SEC number. So, dapat tama ang lagay mo doon. So, when you give us your password, we have policy. The length should be a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 128. Minsan, mahirap mag-memorize ng password. Kanina nga, nagka-problema kami ni Dr. Neri kasi ayaw ako papasakon sa Zoom. Mali yung password. Okay. So, I was downstairs, and then I woke up my son. Sabi ko, anak, tama daw yung password, pero hindi ako makapasok. And buti na lang Aldrin help us out. Tapos meron palang nilagay doon na hindi ka basta makapasok. My son was able to go through it nung ibinigay sa amin ni Aldrin yung link. Okay? So, at least one uppercase letter, at least one lowercase letter. And then, at least one digit. May number, ha? At saka may special character. So, pinakamabuti po dyan, kanta na lang ilagay mo, top of the world. Tapos lagyan mo ng year. So, kami ni Dr. Neri, lalagay namin yung year na pinanganak kami. Para hindi namin makalimutan. Pag tumatanda, mahirap mag-memorize ng password. Kaya dapat yung medyo malapit sa puso. Pwede naman ilagay mo dyan yung first love mo. Yan. Na hindi nakikita ng mister mo. Okay. So, do not use the last password. Kasi the system detects the last passwords that you have. Okay? So, those are simple reminders but very important. So, all you have to do is read carefully the undertaking there and click accept. Accept. Once you click accept, na-activate na yung EAFS mo. So, once you have the EAFS, Ibig sabihin, you have successfully submitted your BIR AFS e-submission account registration application. Kindly check your registered company email for system notification. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, na-activate ka na, successful na, sabi niya, failure to link on the activation within 72 hours will require you to repeat the process of enrollment. So, pag nag-activate ka, dapat, you should be focused that you have to activate it within 72 hours. So, ganyan na po siya, magiging itsura. So, mag-upload ka, pag okay yung files mo, sabi niya, valid files. Is it possible na invalid? Oo, lagay niya. Uploaded na. Ay, valid siya, invalid. So, magkakaroon siya ng tinatawag na transaction reference code. May date, may time, may seconds, kung kailan namin natanggap. Yan, ganyan ang magiging itsura. Meron siyang hindi natanggap, invalid file. So, ano gagawin mo? Resubmit ka dun sa mga invalid files mo. Okay? So, no need to go to the BIR to have your ITR AFS stamp after using EAFS. It makes our life easy. No need to go to the BIR. No need. Huwag ka na makipag-away na pumila. Huwag ka na makipaghabulan sa sasakyan. Stay in your office and file with the BIR. So we also encourage you to use EBIR form package. All you have to do is go to the website, www.bir.gov.ph. It automatically fills the computation. It automatically computes. And all you have to do is put the necessary details. So we have EBIR forms and EFTS. So there are those that are mandated to file. So this is a file anywhere concept. Nung araw po kasi, kunwari, accountant, meron kang account sa Valenzuela, may account ka sa Binondo, may account ka sa Tondo, may account ka sa Quiapo, may account ka sa San Juan, may account ka sa Makati. Nung araw po, mga accounting agency, mga bookkeeping agency, ang dami po nilang lias officer. Kasi pumipila yung mga lias officer. Kasi sasabihin ng lias officer, ang haba po ng pila eh. Ang hindi alam ng may-ari ng accounting firm, nanood na si lias officer. Yan, laging rason. Ngayon, hindi na kailangan yung mga liaison. Bakit? Because you can do filing anywhere. Di ba mas maganda? Kaya kunwari, si John Aldrin, hayahay, nandoon sa Boracay, nagbabakasyon. Papindot-pindot lang siya sa computer niya, nakakapag-file na siya ng return. Di ba? Maganda yun. 24/7. Nung araw, it was just a dream. Nung araw, pinagtatawanan ako. Mabik, ano ba yan? Sabi niya, hindi yan pwede. You have to file to the district where you are registered. Sabi ko, can we not make life easier? Alam niyo, when we introduce EBIR forms, walang gustong gumamit. Nung unang-unang in-introduce namin yung EFPS, takot. Baka daw mawala yung pera nila sa bangko. Kasi nung anong araw, hindi pa uso yung mga online. Oo. Eh ngayon, kung naka-down yung EFPS namin, nagagalit ng taxpayer. Oo. Bakit daw naka-down yung EFPS namin? Hindi na sila sanay mag-file online. Diba? When I was also chief of TSPMD, I was the one in charge of forms. So, the design of forms, the reproduction of forms, the distribution of forms. Nationwide. Buong Pilipinas yan. Ang budget ko po noon, more than 150 million. Natakot po ako. Baka ako makulong. 150 million. Sabi ko, is there any way for me not to have that? So, we pushed EBIR form. Nung umpisa pong ginagamit si EBIR forms, naku po, araw-araw nasa television, sa radyo, kung saan-saan ako, nagpo-forum. Naku, lahat po ng batikos, tanggap ko. Accounting firms, law firms, tax practitioner, ayaw po nilang gamitan ng EBIR forms. Bakit daw EBIR forms? Mawawalan daw sila ng kliyente. Pero alam po ninyo, after they have learned using it, sunod-sunod po ang pasasalamat nila sa akin. Ngayon, a lot of accounting firms can have accounts in Visayas, Mindanao, or elsewhere. Sabi nila, Ma'am Mavic, salamat. With the advent of EBIR forms, we have more clients now. We can even handle 2,000 clients now. As before, we have limited because we have limited hands, we have limited feet. Now, they are empowered. Di po ba? So that's actually a legacy to go through. So, how do we do it? Simple as ABC. Download, install, and what? EBIR Forms Package latest version. Kasi nababago po yan, basta may pagbabago. So, pagpasok po ng Create 2 or yung Train 2 natin, syempre, there will be introductions of more new forms. Okay? Then we have also, you fill up directly by encoding the data. Alam po niya pag may mali ka, so you need to click validate. If there's an error to it, you just simply edit and validate again. And ready to electronically submit to BIR. Once you click submit final copy, an email will be received from your end of your transactions. It says, can be e-filed by clicking submit final copy button, and the taxpayer will receive the corresponding confirmation email notification. So all you have to do is print that, keep it, just in case the BIR will come and visit you, will audit you. For EFPS, it's a two-prong activity. You e-file, so which means there is an electronic enrollment with BIR before you may be able to file it. And also with the bank, e-pay. You also have to enroll with the bank. Depende sa banko na gusto ninyo. And then, you start e-paying. So, you e-file and e-pay. So, ito po yung mga important reminders. Minsan po nagagalit si taxpayer. Hindi ako nakatanggap ng email notification. First, your email address indicated and encoded should be valid and active. Baka naman ang nilagay mo inactive na. Next, your mailbox has enough space, not quota exceeded. Kasi minsan ang daming dumadating sa'yo, hindi na makapasok si BIR. So dapat maglinis ka po ng inyong email. BIR email is not in the spam folder. Kasi minsan, pag palagi yan, pupunta na siya sa spam. Huwag mo tingnan sa inbox, baka nasa spam. BIR.gov.ph is not blocked by you. So pag blinak mo, hindi nga makakatanggap ng email. So if all of the above were undertaken and still no email received after 2 hours from e-filing, then try to communicate with the BIR. Ano po? Baka somewhere, somehow, may problema sa system natin. Okay? So moving on. Ma'am, paano gumamit ng GCash? Very simple lang po. You download, then you open GCash app, select Pay Bills. Tapos sa Pay Bills, choose the biller. So medyo nasasanay na po tayo nito kasi pwede natin bayaran ng telepono, Meralco, mga bayarin natin sa credit card, pwede na yan. Dito ang pipiliin mo government. And under government, marami kasi pwedeng sa government, LTO, Pag-ibig Fund, DFA, ang pipiliin mo, BIR. Then select the form series, 1702 RT ba? And then other pertinent details like tax type, return period, branch code, and then confirm your payment. Then you will receive a text message confirming your payment. All you have to do is save the picture of the text or print the text message received. That's your confirmation. So simple lang paggamit ng GCash. Kapag PayMaya mobile naman, download the app and then log into PayMaya. Click Pay Bills. Diretso na po, lagay ka na. Wala ng government. Bureau of Internal Revenue. Buo. Bureau of Internal Revenue. And then, enter the pertinent details of tax payment. Anong form, anong period. And then click Pay. And you will be receiving a confirmation via SMS and, dalawa to, SMS and email. So all you have to do is print the email or save as picture the text message. And presto, you're done with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Or go to Union Bank. You access the website of the Union Bank, e-pay. Then pay bills, select Bureau of Internal Revenue. Then fill out the required bill information and select account to be debited. So pa-debit-debit ka na lang sa account mo kung may pera ka sa bangko. And then review the payment, click pay, then makaka-receive ka ng payment confirmation. Ganyan na po kasimple ang pagbabayad ngayon. Papindot-pindot na lang. Hindi ko alam kung si Dr. Neri, uso na sa kanya ang pindot-pindot. Alam niyo po kami mga medyo may edad-edad na. Medyo takot po kami ng pindot-pindot. Okay? Pero during the pandemic, I was forced to transfer fund here, transfer fund there. Nasanay na rin po ako dahil takot akong lumabas ng bahay. Pag bumili sa grocery, bayad online. Di po ba? So, dahil sa pandemic, kahit anong edad ngayon, we're forced to go digital. Tama, Dr. Neri? We were forced. We don't want to go to the market. We don't want to go to the supermarket. our grocery, our market are all delivered already from home.
Opo.
Right?
Yeah.
Just to make us, kasi kami pong medyo may edad-edad na, takot po kami ma-COVID. Kaya ayaw po namin humalabilo sa grocery. Sa totoo lang po, simula po nung nag-COVID hanggang ngayon, hindi ko pa po nakikita ang mall. Hindi ko
Totoo yan,
nakikita.
ma'am.
Takot po
Totoo.
ako. Opo. Kasi minsan lang magkasakit, milyon po ang gagastusin. Wala po akong milyon pambayad sa ospital. Okay? Especially that my good friend, Wilson Chua, just died a few days ago. Lalo po akong kinabahan na hindi dapat tayo lumabas unless very necessary. Okay? So
Opo.
below are list of some banks that we have already accredited. They may have others. So tignan nyo nga kung kasama yung bangko ninyo. Yan. Kasama ba yung bangko ninyo? So my advice is, if you're using e-payment as a method of paying the BIR, at least man lang po, dalawa. Mag-enroll kayo sa dalawang bangko para pag offline yung kabila, pwede ka dun sa kabilang bangko. At least dalawa. So, nandyan po ba yung favorite bank ninyo? Kasama po ba dyan? Meron ba kayong suggestion? So, we are still in the process of accrediting other banks. You may notice there are universal banks, okay, that actually cater to the majority. So, kung yung favorite bank ninyo wala dyan, maybe hindi namin sila in-accredit o dati silang accredited namin na tinanggal namin because of some violations. Okay? So, a lot are going to digital evolution. But you know, the BIR, even before pandemic, digital na kami. As early as 1994 to 1996, we have integrated tax system. So, katulad po ni Ma'am Celia, ako, and we were part of the integrated tax system as early as that time. And then in 1997 to 2002, we have the BIR website, we have EFPS. Kaya kung tutuusin yung EFPS po, lumang platform po yan. In fact, we can no longer expand. Soon, mag-goodbye na po si EFPS because we are more into EBIR forms. In 2003 to 2005, we introduced EBIR forms. That was at the time I was with TSPMD. Marami pong bumati ko sa akin. But if you have the backing of the commissioner, by hook or by crook, people will really have to follow. So we expanded the e-services, developed new systems, and then in 2016, BIR launched more e-filing and payment facility, and we enhance, develop, and continue enhancing and expanding our e-services. So meron po kaming tinatawag na DX ngayon, and we hope that in the coming years, more digital activity will come your way with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Okay? So this is the highlights of our e-filing, our e-file returns. Million po siya. So you may notice it increases year by year by year. In fact, the percentage of e-file return is already 87%. So ibig sabihin, 13% na lang po ang nagmamanual. Natuto na ang mga tao. Yung mga taong ayaw mag-file ngayon, napilitan ng mag-file. In terms of collection, there was really a stunning amount in 2016. That's when we introduced EBIR forms and made it mandatory to identify taxpayer. Biglang bumulusok ang collection namin. Okay? Coming from the e-filing statistics natin. So on payment, for 2019, 84%. So ibig sabihin, 16% are paid not over electronic payment. Okay? And 2020, we're still collating for our records. Definitely that will be an increase because of the pandemic. Okay? So everyone is encouraged to e-file, and when you e-file, the date of original entry you submitted is the information that we have there for purposes of identifying whether you filed or late in filing. Okay? So ito po yung mga manual attachments natin ngayon, pero ngayon, gagawin na ninyo through EAFS. Okay? So, ITR, filed by BIR forms, EBIR forms, isama nyo yung email notification, scan it, and upload it through EBIR, to EAFS. Okay? So, okay. I think we have discussed this already.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the income tax rates for individual citizen, individual resident alien effective January 1, 2018. Ito po yung bagong train law natin. Ano po? Where it is effective January 1. So you may notice that the range of taxable income. Take note, hindi gross ha, taxable na. So binawas mo lahat na yung cost and expenses. So if your taxable income is not over 250,000, wala kang babayarang buwis. So that's considered survival salary, a survival taxable income. But if your taxable income is over 250, kunyari, graduated na pong gagawin natin. 250 to 400 at 20%. 400, the base 400 is taxed at 30%. Excess of 400 is multiplied by 25%. Then if your range is 800 to 2 million, the first 800 is taxed at 130. The excess or the over of 800 is 30%. So 20, 25, 30, 32, 35%. So tayo. So maraming nagtatanong, ay ma'am, malaki pa yung tax natin kaysa corporation. Pero tignan naman po ninyo, ang taxable income niya ay 8 million. Bihira po naman sa individual na ang taxable income ay 8. Then come 2023, bababa po yung tax bracket natin. 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So comparing the two, mas maaluwan po ang magiging buhay natin come 2022. That means after election, bago na ang presidente, bago na ang mayor, bago na ang gobernador. Ano po? So bababa 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So maghahabulan na po sila ng tax rates with Core 8, which is the corporate rate. Okay? Then the graduated income tax rates is used by us for purposes of those taxpayer under itemized deduction. And the graduated rate is also used for those using optional standard deduction. Remember the 40%? So dapat ang gagamitin nila 20, 25, 30, 32, 35%. Is there any other rate that we have to compute? Now under the train law, inintroduce po natin itong 8% income tax rate option. So wag kakalimutan yung word option. And this is only allowed for those with gross sales. Ang 8% natin dito will only be coming in after the 250. So in excess of 250, saka mo ikukumputan ng 8% in excess of 250. So this is in lieu of the graduated income tax kasi 8% ang ginagamit mo and in lieu also of the percentage tax. So hindi ka na kailangan magbayad ng 3% percentage tax. Isa na lang, 8% income tax, which is now your income tax and your percentage tax. So the choice of graduated is with you or you choose 8%. Anong pipiliin mo? Kaya lang, may limitation kasi tayo sa 8%. Ang 8% is only for small taxpayers where their gross is 3 million and below. So you tax only of 8% in excess of the 250,000. Okay? What about for mixed income? Yung compensation niya, di ba pag sinabi natin mixed, may compensation siya. Ito yung masisipag. Ito yung mga paraan. So the compensation income is based on graduated rate and the business income, the choice of either you go graduated or you go the 8% option. If your income is 3 million and below. Okay. So criteria for you to qualify for the 8% is that you are an individual, single proprietor, professional. You are having a gross of 3 million below the threshold. Ma'am, 3 million ako, pero nag-VAT ako. Nag-register ako ng VAT. Pwede pa ba ako dyan? Hindi na po pwede. Basta nag-register ka ng VAT, kahit less than 3 million ka, sorry, hindi ka na po pwede sa 8%. Subject only to percentage tax under Section 116 of the NIRC as amended, or taxpayer exempt from VAT and other percentage taxes. Must have signified their intention to elect 8% income tax rate through any of the enumerations under sections 2.7 of the order. Which means that 8% option is not available for this. Basta naging VAT ka na, hindi ka na pwede sa 8% options. Or individuals enjoying tax exemptions. Example of individuals enjoying tax exemption, BAMBI, Barangay Micro Business Enterprise. Hindi ka pwede sa 8% options. So for you to be able to have this for the year, take note, every taxable year. every taxable year. It's your choice. So, if you are a new registrant, as you register, sabi mo na kagad, uy, BIR, gusto ko yan, 8%. Pero, pag ikaw ay existing individual in business or practice of profession, the choices you make are when you file your 1905. Choices. Or, you file your quarterly income tax return. Ilagay mo doon, uy, gusto ko yung 8%. Or, you file your first quarter income tax returns. From ABC of 7.2, pinakaano po yung C? When you file your quarterly income tax returns, that's the time you have to signify that you want to avail of the 8% option. Okay? So, ma'am, taon-taon, ang laging tanong pa ganito, ma'am, taon-taon po ba ay kailangan namin pumunta sa BIR at mag-update using 1905? Ang sagot po, hindi. Just click on your first quarter income tax return and presto. That means for the entire year, you are at 8% options. Okay? So if you are under 8% options, you are still required to file your quarterly income tax returns. You are required to file your annual income tax returns. That's 17018. Pero, walang financial statements required. You are not required to file your quarterly income tax returns to 551Q, which means hindi ka na kailangan magbayad ng 3%. You are required to signify your intention to avail of the 8% every year. Ma'am, ngayon, 8% ako. Next year, gusto ko OSD. O, di signify mo next year, OSD ka. Next year, gusto ko itemize. Basta, ang pili po natin, taon-taon. You have to be consistent of going through your deductions throughout the year or your availment of either the 8% or the graduated income tax. And you are required to maintain books of accounts and issue receipt. Once umabot ka ng 3 million, sorry naman, hindi na pwede. Hindi na pwede. So next, do we need to go over 1,700? I think we have to leave 1,700 compensation income. Bihira naman meron 1,700. Aldrin, what's your pleasure? Kailangan ba nating i-discuss in detail ang 1,700? Or we go to the business tax?
Business tax po.
Anong pleasure? Dr. Neri, business tax na?
Opo.
Okay. Maybe we have a 2-minute break. Would that be fine for our bio break?
Yes, ma'am.
Bio break, which means you go to the ladies' room, men's room, as we go to corporate income, to business tax. Okay?
Okay.
So 2 minutes to 5 minutes bio break.
Opo, ma'am.
While we are having breaks po, we are still accepting queries through the chat box. Just please do send your questions via chat box. Thank you.
Okay? So we continue. So we have here, pwede na tayo, John Aldrin.
Yes, miss. We can continue na po.
Okay. So we have here 1701. When we file, we put in there the year. And can we amend returns? Oh, yes, you can amend as many as you want. But once there's an audit letter, then that stops you from filing an amended return. You can also file short period return. What do you mean by short period return? Hindi mo natapos yung 12 month. So usually those under short period returns are new registrants or mati-terminate na yung kanilang business. So they will not be able to finish the 12-month operational cycle. Then you have here the tax identification notice, tax identification number. Notice that in the design of your form, nakalagay na doon 000, which means the holder of the TIN is a head office. So when you are in business, you have to consolidate all the transactions of your branches. So say for example, head office is in Binondo or Tondo, tapos may branch ka sa Makati, may branch ka sa Taguig, may branch ka sa Iloilo, may branch ka sa Davao, may branch ka sa Bacolod. Saan ang head office mo? Ang head office mo is say for example, Binondo, magpa-file ka sa Binondo. Okay? Where the head office is located, 0000. So the type of taxpayers you have in here is either single proprietor or professional. And then you have to indicate there your ATC code. And your ATC code could either be business income graduated, business 8%, income from professional graduated, or income 8%. Mapapansin po ninyo na naka-indicate dito is your civil status pa rin. Nandun pa rin yung single, married, legally separated, or widower. Although, wala na po yung personal and additional exemption. Simply because the BIR is rich in resources. So, NEDA, when they need, ilan ba yung married, ilan yung single, sa amin kinukuha po yung information. So, other government agency like Congress, Senate, statistical data for purposes of projections, future economic information are actually derived from that data extracted from the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So this is part 2, total tax payable, where we say you can have the option to pay on to installments. Deadline is on or before April 15, but that should be 50% less of item 20. Also, when you try to have overpayment, sumobra bayad mo, you can ask for a refund to be issued TCC or to be carried over. Doon sa dalawa po, to be refunded, to be issued certificate, para mo nang sinabi, BIR, audit me. Wag yun. Wag mo i-check to be refunded para mong sinabing, BIR, audit me. Di ba ayaw naman natin ma-audit ni BIR? It would be best to check the last one, to be carried over as tax credit next year or next quarter. So one can avail of the OSD at 40%. You have here for A, if optional standard deduction, fill items 36 to 46. If 8%, fill item 47 to 56. So unahin muna natin si OSD. So item number 36 is your gross sales receipt fees, 37 is your returns, allowances and discount, and 38 net sales. Then 38 less allowable deductions, optional standard deduction, which is 40% of item 38. 40% of your net sales revenue receipt to arrive at your net income. You add other non-operating income. You add amount received, shared, or income in a partners of a general professional partnership. Then you compute item 45, total taxable income. Compute the tax due based on graduated income tax rates. Ganito naman po yung computation natin, okay? Declaring all the sales that we have. If this is a sales return and allowance, proper credit or refund was made during the month or quarter to the buyer for sales previously recorded as taxable sales. So, pwede naman magbalik. Kunyari, mali, ibang kulay, mali ang size, pwede. You also have discounts, but it should be determined and granted at the time of sale, expressly indicated in the invoice and part of your grosses, duly recorded in the books of account, and the grant of which is not dependent in happening of future events. So, pwede. So, lagay doon. Sales less 10% discount. Dapat nakasulat sa resibo yun. Otherwise, that will not be allowed as a deductions. For those availing of the 8% option, the computation would then be 40 under item 47, sales receipt revenues and fees. 48 less sales returns, allowances and discount equals net sales revenue receipt. Mapapansin mo, walang expenses, walang deductions. Diretso ka agad. So there, item 55, taxable income or loss. 56, tax due. That is item 55 times 8%. So mapapansin nyo, dito, ibinawas mo muna yung 250,000. So less 250, the excess will be the ones to be computed at 8% options. Because 250, the first 250,000 in the graduated rate is really not taxable. Although you are not graduated, pero dahil 8% ka, the first 250 is not taxable. So if you have credits, then you have to attach 2307. But make sure that when you attach, the one component with an amount is the first component, creditable against income tax. So the credits can be 57, prior year's excess credit, payment for the first 3 quarters, creditable tax withheld for the first 3 quarters, creditable tax withheld 2307 for the 4th quarter, tax paid in returns previously filed if this is an amended return. You also have foreign tax credit or other credits. So 64 is total credits. So tax due less credits equals net tax payable. So you also have the background of your spouse. Engaged ba siya in business or professional or empleyado? So, yan. Yan natin. Pag empleyado, hindi po pwede natin gamitin. So, husband and wife shall compute their individual income tax separately based on their respective taxable income. Is it possible na magkaiba silang negosyo? Pwede. Kunyari, si Mrs. ay parlor, si Mr. Talier, magkaiba sila ng negosyo. So, they separately compute. If any income cannot be definitely attributed or identified, exclusively earned, kailangan paghatian. Ano po? Kunyari, shared sila dyan. Hati sila. So, let's take a look at example illustration. Miss AAA operates a convenience store while she offers bookkeeping services to her client. Ba, masipag si Miss AAA. May tindahan na, nagbubookkeep pa. Gross sales from the store is 800,000. Gross receipt from bookkeeping is 300,000. And she signified her intention to be taxed at 8%. Pwede ba? Pwede. Kasi ang gross niya, 800 sa convenience, sa bookkeeping 300, hindi lumakpas sa 3 million. Sabi natin, pag 3 million below, pwedeng mag 8% basta i-signify mo na gusto mong gamitin ay 8%. So, what do we do? Less mo na yung 250, the excess is the amount that we compute the 8%. So, 8% times 250,000, so the tax to be paid is 68,000. Can we use credits to pay it? Yes, we can use credits. But remember, if your income is below 3 million, pero nagrehistro ka ng VAT, sorry, hindi ka pwede sa 8%. What if this is the scenario? Miss AA above failed to signify her intention to be taxed at 8%. Nakakalimutan niya. Gross sales of 1.1, cost of sales 600, operating expense 200. The computation would then be gross less cost equals gross income. Less operating expenses equals taxable income. So, paano mo kukumputin? Ibawas mo muna yung 250, i-multiply mo yung 20%, which is the lowest rate for the graduated income tax rate. Kung may creditable withholding tax, then you can use creditable withholding tax. So, ma'am, paano nakuha yon? Kasi ang taxable income niya is 300,000, ibawas mo yung 250, may sobrang 50, may sobra. So, yun po yung rate natin. In excess of 250 is multiplied by 20%. Okay? Pero, dahil hindi siya qualified sa 8%, kailangan pa rin niyang magbayad ng percentage tax niya. So, 1.1 million times 3% for the quarter, pay the percentage tax. Yung may income tax na, which the income tax is a direct tax, and the business tax is indirect tax, bayad pa rin siya ng percentage niya. Illustration number 4. Mr. BBB signified his intention to be taxed at 8% income tax rate on gross sales. Gross sales during the taxable period exceeded VAT threshold. Ano gagawin natin? Sabi natin, dapat consistent tayo buong taon. 8888 buong taon. Pero, first 3 months, 8% ka. Pero pagpunta mo ng last quarter, last inning of the year, lumagpas ka sa 3 million. Ano mangyayari doon sa binayad mong 8%? Sabi natin, you can use it as credits. So, the computation would then be gross cost sale of 6 million, less cost of 3 million, gross income of 3 million, and operating expense of 1.44. We have taxable income of 1,560. Computing now based on graduated rate, 358. Pero may binayaran ka na first, second, third based on 8%. Ibawas mo. So, 358 less to 20, ang babayaran mo lang in your annual income tax return is 132,000. Ma'am, paano kung may video bar? Nightclub siya. Gross sales 2.2. Pwede ba siya mag-avail ng 8%? Yan. Gross sales 8 million. Cost of sales. Operating expenses. Pwede bang mag-avail? Ang sagot natin, hindi pwede. Bakit? Kasi subject siya sa other percentage taxes. So once subject to other percentage taxes, then you do not and you cannot avail of the 8% option. Okay. So an individual who is entitled to claim OSD or, OSD allowed to individual taxpayers except non-resident shall be at 40% of sales during the taxable year. Whether you're using accrual basis, baseline is gross sale, or cash basis, baseline is gross receipt. So, kunwari, contractor, gross receipt is 4.25. Cost, 2.115. Operating, 1 million. Nag-OSD, pwede ba? Sa OSD, wala tayong tinitignan kung magkano yung gross mo. Kahit 10 million, 20 million, 50 million, pwede. Pwede. Na individual. Okay? So, in here, gross receipt for 4.250 multiplied 40%, the 60% will already be considered taxable. Thus, we multiply that to what? The graduated rate. So the first 2 million is 480. The excess will be multiplied by 30 here. So you have 666 as payment due to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. You deduct the credits or payments in prior quarters if there is any. Okay? So we now go to 1701. Ito po yung mga taxpayers na nag-avail ng itemized deduction. So in here, this is a 4-pager return. Those to be filed by engaged in business, practice of profession, or mixed income. So when they file this, they will be filing it to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. How do they go through it? Gross less cost equals gross income. Less allowable deduction equals net income. Multiply by the graduated rate. Then compare the tax withheld if there is any to arrive at tax stage. So madali bang mag-compute? Mas mahirap kasi you have the cost, you have your allowable deductions. But can I avail of installment payment. Yes, you can avail. On or before October 15. Yeah. So this is how it goes. Gross, less allowable deductions, either itemized or optional. Multiply it by the graduated rate to arrive at taxable income. Compute the tax due. Less taxes withheld equals income tax payable. So ito po yung form natin. Also, computed on a consolidated basis. Kunyari, si Aldrin may negosyo siya. Ang negosyo niya ay nasa Quiapo. Okay. And there are branches. And the branches in Quezon City, in Valenzuela, in Baguio, in La Union. So Aldrin should consolidate all of the income received therein and to be filed to Tondo, to Quiapo, because Quiapo is where the head office is located. So, under item 21, tax rate, choose one. If you choose graduated, alin ba dyan? Itemized ka ba or OSD? Or you choose 8%. So, how do we go through it? It says, mandatory itemized deductions for individual taxpayers entitled to use this. These are the exempt. So, kung exempt individual ka, dapat mag-itemize ka. An example of exempt individual are those with barangay microbusiness enterprise or BAMBI. Or those with income subject to special or preferential rate. May individual bang ganun? O kunyari, nasa PESA registered enterprise ka. Or those income subject to tax rate under Section 24 as amended and also with income subject to special or preferential rate. Ano sabi natin? They should and must be using itemized deduction because they should be transparent to the government. Okay? How do we go through here? Parang nagko-compute tayo kanina. How do we compute? Sales less sales returns equals net less cost of sales applicable for those availing of itemized deduction equals gross. And then your deductions. So your deductions under special laws, it can be ordinary, it can be special, or number 15, it can be NOLCO. So parang halo-halo. May ordinary halo-halo, may special halo-halo. Kami ni Dr. Neri, ang alam namin, ano ordinary halo-halo. Pag sinabi mo ordinary halo-halo, walang ice cream. At saka walang leche plan. Di ba, Dr. Neri?
Opo.
Pag sinabi mo special, may ice cream at saka may leche plan. Mas mahal naman. Ganon din sa tax. Meron kaming ordinary, meron din kaming special, meron pa kaming NOLCO or net loss carryover. Or, kung ayaw mo yung 13, 14, 15, pwede ka naman mag-optional standard deduction. That is 40% of item 10. Which choice? You have to make your decisive action at the beginning of the year. And you cannot change that until the end of the year. Okay? So, number 18 is net income or loss. If itemized deduction, item 12 less 16. If OSD, item 10 less 17. Then, add other non-operating income, 1920. 21 is the amount received or share in income of a general professional partnership. So, 22 is total other non-operating income. And then you compute the tax due. You add both from compensation of business if you are a mixed income earner. So, ano pong kaibahan natin dito? Ang kaibahan po natin dito sa 8% ay walang deductions. Diretso. Bawas mo lang yung 250 and then compute already the flat rate of 8%. Sa itemized deduction naman, dapat kung itemized deduction ka, be sure to have the necessary documentation. May resibo, sales invoice. Sales invoice is the document for goods or properties. OR will be your documentation for services or leasing. So ito po yung mga enumerations natin ng ordinary allowable itemized deduction. Ako po yung nag-design yan. Naka-alphabetically arranged siya. Ba? Dami? And if you want some more, there are other spaces that you would want to go through. The more, the merrier. But be sure, tama yung documentation mo. Otherwise, i-disallow ni BIR yan during audit and examination. So, there are 3 items with ceiling and limitations. And what are these? Your interest expense, your charitable contributions, your entertainment representation, or we simply call it your expense, and your depreciation expense for your motor vehicle. So, bantayan po ninyo because any amount in excess of the ceilings required by law will be disallowed during audit and examination. Kunyari, interest expense. Pwede ang interest expense, pero siguraduhin mong wala kang interest income subjected to final tax because a proportionate computation of 33% will then be deducted. Sa charitable contribution naman, titignan mo, sino bang nagbibigay ng charity? Individual ba or corporation? Pag korporasyon yan, ang maximum na pwede niyang i-charity is 5%. Pag individual, 10% of their taxable income before donation. Sa entertainment and representation expense, ang titignan mo dyan is, ano ba yung nilalako niya? Goods ba or services? Kapag services, maximum mo dyan is 1% of your net sales. Pag goods, 0.5% of your net sales. Beyond, your ear expense will be disallowed if you don't follow the general rule. For depreciation expense, which means on your vehicle, maximum that you can purchase is 2.4 million because more than 2.4 million is considered luxury unless the nature of business is on transportation. Okay? So, the rule is any amount paid or payable which is otherwise deductible from or taken into account in the computation of your gross income or for which depreciation or amortization may be allowed under this section shall be allowed as a deduction only if it is shown that the required amount to be deducted has been withheld. Sa totoo lang po, napakarami nating deductions. Halos lahat ng deductions subject na sa withholding. Rental, 5%. Commission, 10 or 15%, or 5 or 10%. Payment to contractors, 2%. Security agency, 2%. Janitorial agency, 2%. Halos po lahat ng expenses meron. So be sure that if you have that particular expense to withhold the corresponding withholding before you pay your expense or purchases. Okay? You also have special allowable itemized deduction. And how to go through it? Ano bang special? There should be allowed a deduction from gross income in computing the taxable income in addition to regular allowable itemized deduction. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Nandoon siya sa regular pero may dagdag ka pa. Example, yan. Rooming in, breastfeeding practices. So, ano yan? It is a Republic Act. Kunyari, business establishment ka. Naglagay ka ng breastfeeding room. So, pag naglagay ng breastfeeding room, merong repairs expense ka. Ano sabi ng batas? If you will be, whatever expense that you have for that repairs, kunyari, gumastos ka dyan ng 2 milyon. Para kunyari, pag sinabi mo breastfeeding, may refrigerator, may maayos na lugar yung mga nanay na magbe-breastfeed, rooming in. Meron tayo sa mga mall, ganyan, di ba? Sa mga malls, may breastfeeding room sila, doon nagpapadede yung mga nanay. Yan. Anong benepisyo sabi ng batas? It's a special deduction, special. Para ma-encourage lahat to have it. O kung ano mang gastos mo dyan, dodoblehin namin. So you claim it under repairs and maintenance. Kung 2 milyon. Claim mo na, kikilaim mo pa dito 2 milyon doon. Di ba dagdag yun? Ang saya-saya. Di ba? More deduction means less tax due. Kaya, everyone is encouraged to set up a rooming in breastfeeding. Another is adapt a school. Alam natin na may kakulangan na ang school. Bagyo lang, wala na school. Wash out yung mga eskwelahan. So to encourage the private sector to adapt a school, so binigyan ng special deduction. Kunyari SM. Whenever you see an SM mall, iba-ibang klaseng SM. Pag nakita mo yung SM City, di ba? Iba-ibang city. Kasi merong super, ano ang pangalan ng mga SM? May mga maliliit na SM, may super. Basta nakita mo city. Ano ba yung city? Pag city ang tinayo, ganito lang yon. We got it all for you. Ano ibig sabihin yun? Pag SM, nandun lahat. May pako, may hairpin, may salon, may lahat, may grocery. So si Mrs. habang nag-grocery, si Mr. naman nandoon siya sa mga accessories ng mga motorsiklo. Si anak naman nagpapagwapo sa barbershop. Si anak naman naglalaro doon sa palaruan, di ba? We got it all for you. Everything is there in one edifice. So, whenever there's a new SMCT that arises, ang bago sila gumawa, may CSR na ginagawa sila. Tinitingnan nila yung pinakamahirap na barangay within the area or locality where they will be setting up the city. At kung sino yung pinakamahirap na barangay doon, itatanong nila, anong gusto ninyong eskwelahan? Technical school or regular school? Pag sinabi mong technical school, may kumpleto yan. May computers, may laptops, may LCD, kumpleto. Pag sinabi mong regular, ito yung regular classroom. Dr. Raneri, pag tinanong ka kunwari, ikaw ang barangay kapitan, doon sa may hirap na barangay, anong gusto mo? Technical school o regular school?
Regular.
Sabi ni Dr. Ranera, regular. Si Aldrin kaya, ano ang gusto niyang eskwelahan? Pag kunyari, tinanong si Aldrin yung barangay kapitan. Sabi ni SM sa kanya, Aldrin, anong gusto mo? Regular school or technical school? 4 na kwartong ibibigay ko sa'yo.
Regular school.
Ay, regular din. Parehong mali si Dr. Neri at saka si Aldrin.
Talaga.
Bakit?
Kasi
Pag
konti.
regular school, silya, blackboard lang yan. Pag sinabi mong technical, may silya ka na, may blackboard ka na, kompleto, 40 laptops per room. Oh. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng estudyante may laptop. Lahat sila may bag. Yan. Kaya pag kayo tinanong ni SM, ano ma'am?
Totoong ibibigay yan?
Totoong ibibigay yan. In fact, may kontrata kayo. Kapag yan ay nasira, yan ay nabagyo, sumulat ka lang at sila mismo magre-repair. They will sustain.
Ma'am, 2 SM ang nasa Paranaque. Wala kaming alam na meron silang ganyan.
Oh, ay ba mahina kayo sa CSR nila. Dapat meron donated by SM.
Wala po kaming nakita.
Laging ganyan sila. Hanapin mo ma'am si Miss Conica Delinia, siyang in charge doon. Okay? So bakit? Because they can claim additional expense. So nag-donate na sila, nasa donation, as an expense, nandun pa siya sa special deductions. Ganon din po yung expanded senior citizen. Ano yang? Hindi po yan yung discount sa pagbili ng pagkain o sa kaya sa tasakyan, hindi po yan. Yan po ay kung mag-e-employ ka ng senior. Sino naman ang gustong mag-employ ng 60 years old? Hindi ibig sabihin na nag-60 siya sa kumpanya, hindi. New employee siya, 60 years old. Hala nga, new employee 60 years old. Do you want it? Kalimitan in Philippine setting, ayaw. Right? Matanda na, wala nang magagawa. But if you do that, 25% of the total salary of the senior will be an additional expense of the company to encourage employment of seniors. Diba? Meron din tayong free legal assistance, which is part also of special allowable deduction.
Ma'am, question po. Ma'am, kasali po ba yung
Yes.
PWD? Ma'am, kasali po rin ba yung PWD dun sa Expanded Senior Citizen Act?
Hindi po. Sa senior lang po yan.
I
Ibang batas
see.
po kasi yung PWD. So, they are in the process of modifying also the PWD.
Okay.
Okay?
Futuristic.
So, those are the special deductions we have. So, ilagay mo doon. Let's move on to NOLCO. Yan, NOLCO. Ano ba yung NOLCO? Net Operating Loss Carryover. Kasi nabagyo ka, nalindol ka. So, alam mo, 2020 is really a blessed year for us. Do you agree? Kasi beginning of 2020, pumutok ang taal. January yun. February, umpisa ng COVID.
Opo.
Kakalagitnaan ng COVID. Kinovid na nga, 3 malalakas na bagyo. Ang daming binaha. Hindi lang sa Bicol, Metro Manila, Cagayan Valley, elsewhere. Okay? In fact, to the area where my husband is also a politician, in Aurora, ang daming mga bubong doon na lumipad, ang daming bahay na nasira. And they really needed a lot of help. So definitely, businesses affected, net loss. Can they carry it over? Yes, for the 2, under the general rule, 3 successive years. But do you know, under the bayanihan law, in-expand natin yan. Mahirap huminga pagkatapos mong nalugi. So, in-expand natin to 5 years para the business will come up a helping hand of the government. So, instead of 3, expanded to 5 years. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, humahanap talaga rin ang gobyerno kung paano natin makakabangon yung mga negosyante natin through legislative ways. Okay? So, this is your credits for the period, and you have to pay your tax. So, what are the attachments that we have? The attachments that we have to our income tax returns? The attachments that we have are the following. Punta na tayo sa attachments. Okay. Yan. Certificate of Independent CPA duly accredited by the BIR, that is, CPA certificate is required if your gross sales, hindi quarterly yan, annual. Annual sales exceeds 3 million. Statement of Management Responsibility or SMR, you also have, ganyan po itsura ng SMR natin. Pirmado ni individual, ni president or managing partner, pirmado ni CEO or its equivalent, pirmado ni CFO or its equivalent. Okay? Then you have also your audited financial statement if you are under itemized deduction. Otherwise, hindi kailangan pag OSD ka. Or, then you have item 4, certificate of income payment not subject to withholding tax. Number 5, certificate of creditable tax withheld at source to 307 that you have to scan it, submit it to BIR through e-submission. Then certificate of compensation payment and taxes withheld to 306 if you have mixed income. 7, 8, 9 are if applicable only. Then for your financial statement, balance sheet, income statement, pag matanda, ang gumagawa income statement. Pag bata, ang tawag niya profit and loss statement. Kami ni Dr. Neri, ang alam namin income statement. Sa mga bata, katulad ni Aldrin, profit and loss. Kasi ang inaral namin noong araw, dapat ang negosyo profitable, kaya net income statement. Huwag ka mag-negosyo kung hindi ka kikita. Pero let's face it, wala naman negosyo na laging kita. Kaya ang tama ay profit and loss statement. Tama? Yan ngayon ang tawag ng mga kabataan. Yan, si John Aldrin. Then you have your statement of retained earnings, statement of changes in financial position and schedules. And these are all the coverage of what financial statement is all about. Okay? Now, what else? May bago tayo. Ano natin? So may dagdag ngayong attachments yung 17 return natin. Ano yung attachments natin? 1709. Attached to the income tax returns. So it's part and integral part of the new form natin. It is based on the nature of transaction and account affected shall also be described. So kailan natin i-attach ang 1709? Yan. Ang 1709 natin includes the business overview of the company, sino yung ultimate parent, sino yung subsidiary niya. Yan. So ibig sabihin, kapamilya, may ownership linkage among them, conglomerate, may subsidiary. Yan yung mga may dikit-dikit, ika nga natin. So, do we need to declare your business connections? Oh yes, under 1709. So in here, you also have to indicate the functional profile. Anong relationship mo? Anong broad description of the business? Anong relationship niya to the industry that operates? So ang tawag natin dito ay related party transaction or BIR form 1709. So we have to fill this up and it will be an attachment to our form. Included in it are certified true copy of the contract or proof of transaction, the withholding tax returns, and the corresponding proof of payment amongst, kasi may sister company yung mga yan, sister, mother company. Then proof of payment of foreign tax credit if there is any. Then certified true copy of advance pricing or APA agreement if any. And a transfer pricing documentation should also be part and parcel of your 1709 form. What else? Dapat siguraduhin natin lahat na sagutan. Otherwise, you will be asked by the BIR. So this is how it looks. Information returned on related on transactions with related party. Pwede ang related party natin foreign or domestic. So we have to fill it up properly and ensure the disclosures required by law. And this is mandatory for large taxpayers enjoying tax incentives, taxpayers reporting net losses for the current year and immediately preceding 2 consecutive years. Ibig sabihin, 3 taong ka ng loss, kailangan mo mag-submit ito. And those with related party. For this purpose, key management personnel or KMP, as defined under Section 37 of RR 19/2020, shall no longer be required to file and submit the RPT form, nor shall there be any requirement to report any transaction between KMP and reporting entity of parent company and the latter in the RDR forms. Okay? So, yan po yung requirement natin. So, ma'am, yung 8% option ulitin natin, walang attachments na FS, pero may libro, mayroon ding resibo, may required attachments of credit. If there is any, be sure to attach them properly. And file together with attachments on or before April 15 for calendar or 15 days after e-filing for manual filer. Ito malimit na tanong, ma'am, kailangan pa ba yung compilation services? Anong sagot ni BIR? Hindi na po kailangan. Because of the ease of doing business, we are streamlining documents. Kasama po yun sa Citizens Charter namin na hanggat maaari, wag nating pahirapan yung taxpayer. The simpler, the better. The last attachments, the better. So, deadlines for this are spelled out thoroughly para hindi ninyo makalimutan. So, mamili kayo, graduated. Sabi nga kanina natin, we always pay 2 taxes, isang direct, isang indirect. So, income tax VAT or income tax percentage tax as the case may be. So, when we file income tax, it is actually cumulative. But when we file our business tax, it is periodic. Yan. So, yan ang filing. Ma'am, ba't ako? Kung ba't ka, ang filing mo, ma'am, 8% ako. O, di 8%. Kaya lang, no percentage ka na. Kasi, ang pinili mo ay 8% income. Ba't ma'am ako? O, di may quarterly income tax return ka, pero ang ba't mo, dalawang 255M for the first and second month, and then 255U for the quarter. So, that is to be done every quarter. Every quarter. So that means BIR can audit you on a quarterly basis for your VAT. Kaya meron kaming VATAS where this group of examiners are actually auditing you on a periodic activity for your VAT. So for corporations, we have RT, EX, and MX as mentioned earlier, and we will be filing them together with our documentary requirements, similar to what we have for individual. So pag sinabi mo na corporation ka, we always have audited financial statement if your sales or output exceeds 3 million. For government, exempted only, ito, GSIS, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig. Dati, kasama dyan si PCSO. Ngayon, taxable na po si PCSO. Ayan. So, 4 na lang po ang natin na GOCCs. Okay? So, for corporations, they also need to file quarterly return, also need attachments as the case may be. For EX, these are those under the exempt, Section 30 and Section 27C of the tax code. Do they need to file return? Yes. The difference is that mandatory po na i-itemize natin. All expenses should be declared. Very transparent. Bakit? Wala naman silang bayaran eh. So, dapat lahat ng gastusin nila. Nandiyo dyan. They also have to indicate the legal basis of why they are exempted. Sabi niya, ma'am, co-op ako. Nilagay mo, cooperative. Ang IPA mo, or the Investment Promotion Agency is co-op. Ma'am, PESA registered. O, nilagay mo ng IPA mo, the governing party is PESA. Ma'am, Aurora Economic Zone ako. Nilagay mo. O, Cagayan Economic Zone ako. Ilagay mo kung ano yung governing agency that regulates your activity. Okay? So, number 18 is your tax due. Less credits if there is any. Anong tax due mo? 0. Kahit exempt ka yan. Eh ma'am, bakit may penalty? Wala ka nang babayarin, na late ka pa. Ay, pinalize ka ni BIR ng 1,000. So, pag wala ka nang babayaran, abay magpasalamat ka. Mag-file ka dapat na tama before the deadline. So, we always encourage our taxpayer not to pay on the deadline, but before the deadline. Kasi before the deadline, kung may mahinang internet, hindi ka makapasok, any reason, there are any other reason, 1,000 reasons over the sun, before the deadline, may magagawa ka pang paraan. Kung deadline ka, ay wala ka nang magagawa, late ka na. So mandatory under itemized deduction are corporations that are exempt, corporations that are special or preferential, or those with mixed income. They are mandated to use itemized deduction. Okay? So, parang yung computation natin kanina sa individual, sales, less sales returns, less cost equals gross income. So, meron siyang ordinary, meron siyang special. Kasi EX siya. Pero ang EX natin, walang NOLCO. Bakit walang NOLCO? Because they are not in business. Walang net operating loss carryover sila. That's the difference between a regular income tax and EX. Walang NOLCO ang EX. Okay? So, are they required to put all their expenses? Oh yes, all expenses should be transparent, fully documented. If subject to withholding, must do the necessary withholding. And what is very good under this is this return is also filed by GPPs. Pag GPP, dapat isama din nila yung mga names ng partners, the TIN of each partners, and the share of each partner. Bahala na si BIR na hanapin yung filing ng 1701 returns ditong partners. Okay? So, there are also reconciliations that should be done because tax accounting and financial accounting are entirely different. Example of the difference is the special allowable deduction. So, paano natin computein? Gross less cost equals gross income. Compute the MCIT. And MCIT is computed for those with over 4 years transaction. You also compute based on regular income tax at 30. Ma'am, dalawang beses? Opo. 2 or 3, ang favorite po namin sa BIR, whichever is higher. Kapag kita, ang favorite ni BIR, whichever is higher. Kapag expense, Dr. Neri, ano pag expense? Siyempre, whichever is lower.
Lower.
Diba? Ni BIR.
Yes.
That's the power of taxation. Okay? So, you deduct the credits to come up with amounts still due. So, ganyan po kasimple. So, for our computation of MCIT, MCIT begins on the 4th taxable year of operation. So when you say operation, it is the time when you registered with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. What? Not with the SEC. Kasi pwede kang nagrehistro kay SEC, pero hindi ka naman nagsimula. Di ba nangyayari yan, Dr. Neri? Nagrehistro ka, pero hindi ka tumuloy.
Nagsimula ng negosyo.
O nagsimula. Ang reckoning mo dyan is kung kailan ka may resibo, kailan ka may libro, na ready ka na makipag-transact sa customer. So, makikita na na operational ka na. So,
Okay.
how it should be computed? It is computed at 2%, deducting all your direct costs. Okay, all direct costs. So, on RT, consolidated din po ang filing natin yan. And on RT, which means the corporate rate is 30%. So, for the deduction, may ordinary, may special, may NOLCO pa rin po. Net operating loss carryover. So, on RT, hindi na natin kailangan to. You can also claim all credits due you. And then, you have special allowable itemized deduction, you can, if you wish to. And compute the tax based on 30%. Ulitin po natin ha, computation of tax is based on 30%. So, ang tanong mamaya, ma'am, kailan lalabas yung create law? Yung mas mababa na yung corporate rate? We will just be waiting for the president's approval.
Sign.
Ano po? So if the president will not sign it within 30 days, it lapses and becomes automatically.
Hello.
Okay? So ano kaya? Tingnan natin. Baka po under review. Kasi during the train law, yung train 1, nagtagal din po kay presidente. Kaya nga po on the VAT area, marami po siyang binito. Inaaral pong mabuti ng mga technical people in Malacanang. So, yet, the legislative group, Congress and Senate, tried to review it thoroughly, but when it came before the final approval of the President, there were 5 items vetoed by the President. Ganyan din po ang nangyari doon sa tax amnesty natin. Ni-review din po ng Malacanang, and after going through it, may mga items din po na nag-veto ng Presidente natin. Ano po? That's the reason why, siguro, the presidential team is taking over the review of Train 2, and we just pray na sana bukas makalawa lumabas dito. So for those special corporations like private educational institutions, they are taxed at 10%. If the school-related income is more than the non-school-related income. Sabi natin, PESA, SBMA registered, 5%. In lieu of all national and local taxes after income tax holiday for registered PESA enterprises. So, is there a prescription for amending your return? No. You can always amend. Kaya lang, pag lumabas na yung LA ni BIR, letters of authority, goodbye. I hate to see you go, but you cannot amend anymore. Okay?
Yeah.
So, can we claim credits? Oh, yes. Pera natin yan. But be sure you have the necessary documentation to claim the credits. So, ulitin natin. 2 extra copy kasi kakailanganin po natin yan with our sister SEC. Bakit sister namin si SEC? Iisa po ang tatay namin, Department of Finance. So, additional deductions will be required of you. So I think I covered the majority on income tax.
Yeah.
And there's actually information overload.
Mhm.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Students of
Opo.
Dr. Neri, oo,
Opo,
information
opo.
overload.
Opo.
Kasi in a very short period of time, ang dami mong kailangan i-absorb. And if
Opo,
you need
opo,
to go
opo.
through it, you have to digest everything. Now, if you want to have more research on it, go to these specific regulations abounding in the website of the Bureau of Internal Revenue.
Okay.
So, marami kayang katanungan sa chat box natin. Titignan natin. And you can also
Opo,
ask
opo.
over the phone. So, simple reminders we have for our dear taxpayers. Available pa po yung Voluntary Assessment and Payment Program, or we simply call it VAP, for taxable year 2018. This is extended until June 30, 2020. So, kung ayaw na natin ma-audit ni BIR for our LAs of 2018, all we have to do is avail of Voluntary Assessment and Payment Program. So there are percentage rates in there are minimums in there, so you can go over the issuances regarding VAP. Now, for availment of tax amnesty on delinquency, we have extended it also up to June 30, 2021. Kasi nag-pandemic po, syempre kahit may deadline tayo, so sinaalang-alang po natin na walang pera po ang tao. Even if they want to avail, but they do not have, so we extended it up to June 30, 2021. So it says, thank you! And I hope you've learned and shared information in our short discussion or webinar for today. For your inquiries, you may do your inquiries here, or you may send me emails, okay? So emails is maribicgalban@bir.com.ph, maribicgalban@yahoo.com. And go to the chat box if you have questions, and we will try to answer the contents of the chat box that you have, okay? So you may connect for all other webinars that you need me in the future. You also may connect in here. Okay? So I usually discuss in there VAT, withholding, lahat. Ang maganda pong ano nyo, attendan yung related party transactions. Okay? So I will now stop the sharing and we now be going through the chat box.
Thank you very much.
Submitted tayo sa chat box.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marivic Galban, for shedding a light to all the participants regarding this topic.